what's your experience with the psychedelics and kind of how, tell me about that journey.
There was one particular night that kind of changed everything for me. Me and a friend split about an ounce. Everything was normal. We were just tripping out. I went to the bathroom, turned around and looked and saw what looked like a translucent hole in reality open up. It was like an Indian goddess dancing, and her dance was so rhythmically perfect that it was like pistons in an engine. There was no flaw in her rhythm.
Mhm.
And I remember walking toward that and thinking to myself, I want to go inside that.
Edward Crowe, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Man, I'm excited that you're here, man. So,
Man, I'm honored to be here with you, bro.
we've got a bunch of mutual friends. We've talked a few times on the phone,
Mhm.
and but haven't really got to hang out and get to know each other. So,
Right.
what better way than the first time hanging out on the podcast?
Perfect timing, man.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, what's going on today, man?
Man, everything's good, man. Just been busy working, touring. We've been traveling a lot. I manage Yelawolf. That's I'm in the music business, an executive and manager,
Mhm.
photographer. So we've been on the road, super busy, getting ready for a double album rollout.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, and where are you from originally? Like, where'd you grow up?
I'm originally from Wilmington, Delaware, which is about 20 minutes out of Philadelphia.
Okay.
And I don't think I've met anyone else from Delaware except for I got one buddy from Delaware who's a drummer for Struggle. But yeah, man, I'm from there. I moved here when I was 10 years old because my father was a country music singer.
Okay.
And we were here 6 months. He wrote a song for George Jones that was on his album. And then he's just been laying back ever since. And I kind of took over the music business thing in our family.
Okay. Wait, did you go to school around here?
I went to Memphis College of Art years ago, but then I dropped out just because I was working to pay for it at night, going to school during the day. It just got to be too much. But and I went to Antioch High School.
Oh, you went to Antioch.
Yeah.
Okay, I went to Overton.
Did you?
So yeah, we were. What year did you graduate?
I didn't. I got a GED, and it would have been 2000.
2000. Okay,
Yeah.
I graduated in '99,
Okay.
and so we were obviously the same time. Golly. So did you know Jelly then?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've known Jelly. We used to live in Nashville Village.
Okay. Yeah.
Went way back. Way back. Yeah.
Nashboro
I've
Village.
known him a long time.
The whole area's changed. I lived up until about let's see, in kindergarten off of Tarragon Trail. Yeah.
Dude, I lived on Teotihuacan Trail at one point.
Oh, okay.
That corner house, like, I don't know what the other fork is, but yeah, right there.
At the
Teotihuacan
dead
Trail
end?
corner.
You know where the
It used to be a dead end, right? Now they've cut through it. Have you seen that?
well, rather, but I guess what I'm talking about, if you go down, it's not a dead end, like little half roundabout, then you go left. 40, yeah.
I think that's where I'm talking about, the corner house that I lived in.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, on Teotihuacan Trail. That's crazy you lived on
We might
Teotihuacan
have been
Trail.
neighbors when we were kids. When did you live there?
I was probably 20 when I lived there.
Okay.
You lived there when you were younger?
I was a kid, yeah, 4 or 5
Okay.
years old.
Got you.
So
Yeah, that's deep in Antioch.
yeah,
Teotihuacan Trail.
it is.
That's crazy.
It is. It's deep in Antioch.
Back in the day of Pop's Car Wash, all that type
Oh
of
yeah.
stuff. Remember that?
Oh yeah. I mean, the times have changed a lot.
Mhm.
But I'm grateful for my experiences kind of everywhere I lived as a kid.
Right.
It was good. It's very diverse, and I love Lower Antioch.
Man, me too. Shit. I mean, we always joke and say, like, they could have made a movie about those days, our era of Lower Antioch. Probably is still today, but I'm not out in it, so I don't see it. But
Yeah.
interesting town, man, especially coming from up north. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What was that like? You moved? Did you move there as a kid?
Yeah, I moved here when I was 10, so I didn't really, it wasn't much for me to gauge, but I moved back to Delaware when I was 16. Came down with this crazy illness, and then all I wanted from my parents at that time was, I said, man, if I survive this, I just want to move back to Nashville. And they didn't want to live here anymore. They kind of were over the whole, songwriting thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, all right, cool. Whenever you get out of the hospital, we'll move back to Nashville.
Oh
And we
man,
did. So I was gone probably a year and a half, something like that, before I came back. And just, man, I love it here.
that's
know.
awesome. What kind of illness were you dealing with?
It was called Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever heard of that?
Yep, absolutely.
It's like it attacks the myelin sheath.
Yep.
The whatever it is, it surrounds and protects your nerves.
Yep.
And at the time, they didn't know how I caught it. They said it could have been Campylobacter from chicken. It could have been. There's a lot of cases they just don't know. Some are flu shots even. Like people can get it from flu shots.
Yeah, no, isn't most of it like most people don't show symptoms? Is that correct?
That's right. That's right. And small symptoms, if you do, like in my case, I had tingling in my
Uh
hands
huh.
at first, and then the tingling went to my feet, and then the tingling went to my mouth. And at that point, I knew something was crazy. We were on our way to Gatlinburg for vacation, and we ended up going to the hospital, and we went to DuPont in Delaware, and they misdiagnosed me. They said it was all in my head.
Mm,
And I knew better than that. You know what I mean? They
yeah.
blamed it. They said you're on drugs. At that point, I hadn't really done too many drugs, but they said it was all in my head. And I knew better. They sent me home. I had a lung collapse. Obviously, I sued them. Got a settlement. Wasn't a lot. Then went to Crozer Chester Medical Center in Pennsylvania and was diagnosed. It took a couple days for them to figure it out. Like they had said it was everything else. But then a spinal tap was the way they finally were able to
Mm,
tell exactly what it was.
pinpoint it.
Yeah.
Man, so yeah, I've heard that the vaccine and even COVID has been activating it supposedly. Have you heard about that?
Absolutely, absolutely. When they first came out and said that, my mom had sent me the article, and they said that if you had Guillain-Barré, do not get this vaccine, right?
That's the one. Yep.
And I stuck to it. I said I'm not doing it. I can't do. Like Guillain-Barré was way worse than anything I've experienced with this.
Yeah.
So it got a little tricky at certain points though, like with international travel and that type of thing. So I ended up getting a note from a doctor. I went in there, told him everything, and
Hmm.
they gave me a whole you know piece of paper saying that they advised that I do not get that and I should be able to travel without it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the flu shots, oh yeah, that's right. They ended up coming back out and saying, it's okay now. You can take the shot. Right. And I was like, nah, I'm good. You know what I
Why did
mean?
you say before, but now
Exactly.
you're playing with fire too with what you went through?
Yeah. I mean, I was totally paralyzed. Like I couldn't close my eyelids. You know what I mean? I couldn't move my legs. I mean, from head to toe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So crazy.
Man, how old were you when that was going on?
16.
16, man.
Yep.
That's brutal. And yeah, to have people tell you too, oh, there's nothing wrong with you. It's in your head. You're like, no,
Hmm.
something's wrong for sure.
Right. And it was like, when it started getting worse, they said they were gonna have to cut one of these tracheotomy, I
Yeah.
think they call it. Cut that. They didn't end up doing that. They ended up doing like life support down my throat into my
Oh
lungs.
man.
And I thought this is how they treat you when you're dying. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? They tell you everything's okay. They tell you you're gonna be all right. And lo and behold, it didn't cure it, but it reversed the process. I think this isn't how you say it, I don't think, but something like immunogamma or something like that.
Yes.
Transfusion.
Yes. Immunoglobulin.
Immunoglobulin transfusion?
Yes.
Okay. So that's what they did instead of a blood transfusion.
Okay.
And that was able to reverse the process.
Yeah, it probably somehow resets the immune system because I guess
Right.
the virus is attacking and your immune system's kind of uh, at a suppressed state to a point,
Right.
right? And then it's somehow activating with the immunotherapy.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was a crazy time.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So you were 16, then you came back and you went. When did you go to Antioch? Before or after that?
Before and after.
Okay.
Yeah. So well, think about that. I think it was before and after when I came back, because when I left here, at one point I got kicked out of Antioch and went to Glencliff.
Okay.
And then I ended up in Mount Pleasant, Delaware after all this shit.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was crazy going back to school after this happened because I was like on a cane. I weighed like 90 pounds. My face was paralyzed and sunken. So, first thing everybody thinks is you're on drugs or something.
Hmm.
So it was hard to like, see people looking like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that was a crazy time.
And did you met Jelly then? Did you meet Yelawolf around then too?
I knew Wolf, yeah, since we were like, man, probably 12, 13.
Okay.
And we used to write graffiti together. So he was Coma and I was Ounce. And yeah, interesting story. When I linked back up with him, man, I want to say 2010, 2011. I'm not sure what year it was, but I was managing a photographer at the time. And the photographer said, I'm going to shoot an artist named Yelawolf. And I hadn't heard of anybody named Yelawolf at that time.
Huh.
And so I said, okay, cool. I'll roll with you. I usually didn't go with him. It was at the Mercy Lounge. And he had a Tennessean pass, the whole nine. We went up there and they were like, you can't shoot him. he was being paid to be there and had a pass. They were just being not cool about it,
Hmm.
you know. And I said, man, I started Googling the guy. I was like, wait a minute. I grew up with this guy. And the photographer was like, man, bullshit. We see him on the cover of Double XL with Eminem and all this stuff. I was like, I'm telling you, man, I know this guy. I'm not leaving until at least I see him and he tells me to kick rocks. Or, you know what I mean? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to let these people tell me I can't be here.
Right.
So that's what happened. I went to the back. I bumped into a couple other guys we grew up with, and they were like, hell no, come back here. And Wolf acted like, we hadn't seen each other in one day or something like that.
Yeah.
He was incredible, super cool. And then we just hung out from that point. And one day at a car wash, just random, I was like, man, I want to work with you. I had a paint company at the time. So I'm tired of doing this. I was moving in and out of town with him, like on the video shoots, interviews, whatever he had going on at the time. And I said, I know you're not hiring, but I'm gonna work for you. I'm cool to. I'll take out the trash. I walk the dogs. I had my own studio when we first linked back up, and I was working with a bunch of like up and coming artists. Nothing really promising. Nothing really generating any income. And I said, I'll start at the bottom. And if you don't feel, you don't have to pay me anything right now. But if we get to a point where you think it's worth it, cool. If I get to a point where I think it's not, cool. You know what I mean? And here we are, however many years later, and we've grown to the point where now I'm Wolf's manager. You know, in between that, I've sold his merch. I've been his tour manager. I've been his tour photographer. I DJ'd one time on a private island. So we played a lot of roles, to get to this point.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's incredible. It's interesting what you say because, you say, "Hey, I'll take out the trash if need be,"
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that a lot of people can learn from. If people are trying to know how you come up, you make yourself useful and helpful to people.
Absolutely. Make yourself, as close to indispensable as you can become. You know what I mean? Like at a certain point, I was the dude with the weed early in the game, and then I was the dude with the camera. After I lost, well, my photographer went on tour with a couple, I think Drake and Miguel at one point, and he was the guy that would photograph my artists. It was kind of like a trade off.
Mhm.
When he went on the road, I was happy for him and proud of him, but I needed somebody to take the pictures. So I traded this old Cadillac I had for a Canon 7D,
Mhm.
started learning how to take the pictures myself. And that's how we went from there. But yeah, man, I heard a saying before, sweep the parking lot till you own the building. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, I feel like it's important to value putting in the work to prove your value. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's super in my work and where I've come from and where I've made it to. That's one of the biggest key takeaways for me is, go a little bit harder than you're paid for or do stuff for free,
Yep.
to get in position that you need to be in.
That's so good because I've worked for free many times. Like my business partner, one of my business partners, Scott Nelson, been one of my best friends since I was 15.
Hmm.
I first met him. I was putting on a grappling tournament. It's the uh, pro-ams of grappling. I was 18 years old, way too young to be putting on this giant tournament at the time. It was
Hmm.
basically whatever anybody in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu would want to see the best guys go. And there wasn't
Hmm.
a platform for that except Abu Dhabi, which was in Abu Dhabi. And so we put together this crazy tournament. And Scotty, came there and, you know, he just started helping with all the mats, and him and
Hmm.
Gumby, his partner, in OTM, they started helping with everything. And I was a kid and impressionable too, and I was like, it's really nice. Look at all the help that they're giving.
Right.
And so, he mentioned, yeah, you should always just help people. The more you help people, the more opportunity you'll have.
Hmm.
And so, I kind of took that up too. And I mean, yeah, it's like work for free. It's not a bad thing. It's not actually like bringing your worth down.
No.
It helps because when people see you putting an effort forward, uh, you know, not wanting anything in return, you'll
Hmm.
eventually get something, in return just out of the goodness of the act. I think.
Right. Right. And it's important to get into the room with those people.
Yeah.
A lot of times those people are too busy to answer the email or the phone. I'm sure you can relate. I can relate. But when you have someone come in who's willing to put in that work, man, they prove their value, and then it gives you a chance to understand their character, and see what they're about, and then grow from there.
Yeah. I mean, it's making, you know, I always say, give without remembering, receive without forgetting. And
I like that.
like, how do you give and not expect anything in return when somebody gives something to you? How do you make sure you don't forget that? And that really way of being, at least for me in life, has helped a lot because, where I'm at now, it's
Mhm.
kind of wild to me, but, you know, we're here because we gave so much to so many people. And I'm not saying, oh, we gave so much. Like not as in I
No,
want
I
a
get it.
reward. I'm
Right.
just saying that was the idea. Just give. Don't worry about what you get back in return. Never really care. Like whatever. No,
Right.
I'm not. The people are like, oh, I feel like, oh, you don't owe me nothing, man.
Right.
Like, for sure. And it's really a way to, you know, get ahead per se.
100,000%. And yeah, it's important for people coming up to understand that. You know what I mean? I always see people sometimes, like wanting to charge this outlandish fee. They think that's the way, and it's some new kid. You know what I mean? It's like, man, you're doing it wrong, bro. You gotta, put in the work.
You got to put in the work, and you know, people respect is super important.
Hmm.
Respect is more important than money.
1,000%.
I mean, I want $5,000, but I don't want the person's respect. Like, no, that person's respect's worth a lot more than $5,000.
All the way.
And that's kind of what it is. You think about our friend group in Nashville. We have a lot of mutual friends,
Hmm.
and that's really what it comes down to. It's
Right.
it's respect. And I saw a speaker, Nito Quabin. It was
Hmm.
pretty interesting. He said, "What is power? Power, is it money? Is this?" Like, no, power equals access.
Mm, that's dope.
Power equals access. Can you pick up the phone and make a call and support you in getting something done?
Right.
And you don't get access by asking for money all the time.
That's a
You get it
fact.
by having respect and people knowing what you're about.
Right. And the more you have, the quicker those people move. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
it's pretty amazing when you can make those moves that you wish you could have made back in the day, and now you realize you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like you're in the position that you were working to get toward. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
That's dope what you just said. I like that.
Yeah, man. It's interesting because people look at it. I think some people look at it. A lot of people look at it kind of the wrong way,
Hmm.
and and then asking, let's say, a favor. I don't like to ask for favors. I really don't. But my friends know if I call and were to ask something, I don't ask for much.
Right.
So at least it's meaningful. So give, 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 give. And if you really, if you really need something, friends are there to help you. They're not there to be abused,
Absolutely.
but they're there to help you if you really,
Right.
need it.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Because it reminds me of Think and Grow Rich. Like, obviously, you've read that
oh
book,
yeah,
I'm sure.
absolutely.
That's one I like to give out, you know what I mean, to people who haven't read the book. But I like how they say in the beginning, I don't know if it's the first couple pages, it says something like there's a secret in this book that you'll learn. You can learn it on the first page. It might take all the way to the last page to get to the secret. But I think that's the moral of the secret. You know what I mean? Is putting in the work to earn the stripes and the respect. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like, takes a long time, man. You know what I mean? It takes a lot of respect.
it does. It does. And it's the other thing of you are what you think.
Hmm.
I was talking to I brought it up to a couple of the mayoral candidates. And I think the way that we talk to people that might be poor or disadvantaged is
Hmm.
wrong. Like by calling somebody marginalized groups, marginalized means powerless or unimportant.
Mm.
So every time we call them marginalized, we're calling them powerless or unimportant. And what does that
Wow.
do for somebody's psyche? You're powerless. You might as well be saying it. You're powerless. You're powerless.
Right.
Like, you know, no way. We need to tell these kids, you're powerful. You can do whatever
You
you want
you can be a
to do.
superhero.
A
You
super
know what I
they and they
mean?
can't.
They can, yeah.
You know,
It's like I like doing those you know how they tell you to do affirmations like in front of the mirror and that type of thing. I've always had a hard time with that. So what I did was I've taken binaural beats,
Mhm,
familiar,
mhm,
and putting the affirmations on top of that from the perspective of I am, I have, I am thankful. You know what I mean?
mhm.
That type of thing, and putting those in different numerical sequences like threes and sixes and nines and stuff like that, and just listening to that on repeat constantly. And I feel like it's like reprogramming your mind like when you were a kid, or like you're saying about the poverty. It's like you're reprogramming your thoughts.
Yes.
And that's important because if someone's growing up and you're always told you're ugly or you're short or you're this or that, that's what you learn to believe because that's what you're programmed.
Yep.
I believe you can reprogram that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. What did you learn, like, from Think and Grow Rich? Like, what did you learn about, call it programming the mind?
Well, going above and beyond, over delivering, you know what I mean? Like we discussed. Past that, I mean, I've went down a rabbit hole of, Ernest Holmes and Manly P. Hall and all these different philosophers, I guess you would call them,
Hmm.
but authors, and my takeaway is just that with the thought thing is like, man, reprogramming your mind is very important. You know what I mean? Talking to yourself from the perspective of I am. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
am thankful. Gratitude is very important. Like extreme gratitude.
Yeah,
You know?
there was a study that just kind of that I just saw that was talking about gratitude and how it, it literally can determine someone's success or failure.
Oh wow.
And I'll have to pull it up. But it was going into, if you have gratitude, so many more opportunities will pop up in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And because you think about this, we want to be around grateful people.
Right.
There's something about when somebody's ungrateful,
Right.
you're like, it's like for me, it's
Mm-hmm.
an energy I don't love to be around.
I agree 100%. It's a frequency at the end of the day. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
it's a frequency. So the frequency of gratefulness
Right.
seems pretty important.
And I think the words you speak too, not to get too in the weeds, but the words you speak, like someone says, for instance, I want new sheets so my sheets aren't old and dirty and they don't stink, and they start describing this, right? As opposed to I'd like some new sheets so they'll be more comfortable and they'll look better. Like
Hmm.
just using your words, you're saying the same thing, but using a positive approach to that same idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
And I
do.
think words are very powerful. And I've been practicing trying to clean up the way I use my language and being more conscious of it. Not in a nerdy way, you know what I mean? Like not trying to be PG-13 or nothing, but
Sure.
figuring out how to use that as a tool as opposed to just it's like driving down the street blind, not knowing you're driving, just, swerving everywhere,
Right.
or paying attention while you drive and know where you're ending up, you know? So,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the words that we use to ourselves and the words that others use to themselves and to those that are around them.
mhm,
Uh, it, it's not talked about much, the
right,
the effect that they have. But
right.
if thoughts are things and your words actually create things,
Mhm,
and the words that are coming out of our mouth are actually programming our subconscious mind, if that's true,
mhm,
then we should really be careful and be aware. And what you're saying, I think, is that you're aware of the importance of what you say.
mhm.
And if you have a bad pattern of what you're saying, you want to change that pattern into something that's going to serve you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when we get into psychedelics, we'll talk more about that. But yeah, I mean, that's something that's come to me through different journeys is just learning how to speak properly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When you think
Yeah.
about the kids that are, I go back to the word marginalized and stuff, where those type of words matter. Um, I wonder how much we program uh, society. Maybe unconsciously, we're not knowing that we're programming certain people to believe that they're less than.
Right.
And whereas I think a lot of it's well intended,
Hmm.
uh, I actually think that it's having a negative effect on those kids.
Absolutely. And that's something, man. We've got a nonprofit called Slum Saving Lives Using Music.
Okay.
And it's something we're getting off the ground. As you know, like when you create new wings of your company, you've got to build new teams. You know what I mean? Not the same team can't handle five new things that they got to do. But I went and spoke to some kids on a couple occasions at some of the schools and juvenile detention centers locally, just to try to get a vibe for what we can do to help. And man, it was crazy. Like some of these kids are so much more detached than I ever imagined.
Mm.
And it's like just getting them to look up at me was difficult. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I thought I was gonna go in there and tell them I got the same background as you, and they're gonna relate. And we're gonna become buddies and start making music and everything. Nah, man. Like you got to battle just getting them to look you in the face. You know what I
Mm.
mean? To pick their head up off the desk and give a shit. You know what I mean? Like, and it's pretty crazy because of the environments they're in. Probably the way they're talked to, the way they think of themselves. You know what I mean? Is all circles back to what we're talking about. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? In society. You know.
What do you think the kids like, the kids that won't look up or, you know, they obviously have a giant wall
Mhm.
because well, there's a lot of different reasons, but they don't want to connect.
Right.
For why do you think that the kids right now that especially are closed off don't want to connect?
I think it's a multitude of reasons, but one, I learned that it's a two-part answer. One, I learned that you get more from these kids when you ask them about themselves. When I was trying to explain, how to do better or, trying to teach,
Mhm.
it wasn't getting much fruit. But when I started just singling out the kids, like, man, I got to the point where I was almost having anxiety in front of this group of kids because they were just looking at me like, when's this over? You know what I mean? Like, and finally I'll just pick one out and kind of put them on the spot and be like, tell me about yourself. What do you do? What if you could be anything in the world, what would that be? One kid's like a basketball player, but it'll never happen.
Mm.
That's what he said. And I'll just start, hit him with the why, and keep trying to dig deeper and figure out what the pattern is to get him to feel that he just can't do that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But and then a buddy of mine, Cairo Inc. He said he used to work at a group home, and when I was doing this, I was telling him the same thing me and you were talking about. He said, "Man, you got to understand, some of these kids, it's deeper than they're just a bad kid on the wrong path. They might have been abused when they were a kid, or something way deeper that has to be dealt with internally before they can really be fixed." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's something I'm not gonna say it did never cross my mind, but he put it into perspective for me. It made it make a lot more sense. Like, damn, but I still want to keep fighting for that and help and do what I can, but it helped me understand, damn, it might be deeper than we think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you know, when we grew up, I do think it was a different time.
Mm-hmm.
It's different than it was different than it is now.
Absolutely.
Um, and I wonder, we have to find ways to get through to the kids
Mm-hmm.
because they are our future,
Right.
And I do wonder too if maybe they are more shut off because of the iPhones and the
That part.
tablets, and
Yeah.
so it's so easy, even for me,
Mm-hmm.
to get lost in my phone, and shut off the world,
Mm-hmm.
and so and I feel like we have less connection now as humans
Mm-hmm.
with all the iPhones and tablets as we did, before we had that. What are your thoughts?
I mean, man, technology, like you said, iPhone, social media, all these notifications. I turn all the notifications off on my phone. I look at it when I need to. I know about when somebody's gonna you know what I mean? But like you said, even with these precautions that I'm taking, I still feel it shortening my attention span. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I've already got a short attention span. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it doesn't help. It's like I think technology is a big one because based on the civilizations we're aware of. Obviously, something may have happened thousands of years ago, this whatever, but based on what we are 100% aware of, this is the first time in human history that we've had something like this. Social media, one where every human gets a platform. That's a crazy concept. Every single human can have a platform to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right.
Hmm.
One, you know what I mean? Two, it's just, man, I mean, I'm sure you've noticed before, like my thumb will take me right to Instagram.
Mm.
You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, I don't even have a choice. It's taking me there on its own. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Soon your brain will just
Yeah. And
with
I'm
the
sure it's designed for that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I've heard more about, TikTok. I don't have one. A couple times I've seen it. It's just berating. You know what I mean? So I'm sure it's not good for our psyche at all.
Yeah, have you taken a break from it at all? Have you been able to, like
I do sometimes. Yeah, I do take a break when I can, but then, with the touring and that type of stuff, I always want to like turn it off and just log in to post to it or something, like make a couple steps in between just having the ability to go right to it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And focus more on reading and living in the real world, nature and being present for the moment that we're in right now and not staring into this box.
When you think about the power of that algorithm too,
Mhm.
so I was talking to my business partner, Dedrick Perry, um, and he was talking about leadership, and, like, we're like, "What is leadership?" And he said, "The algorithm is the leader right now,"
Mm. Wow.
you know? And he's right because we have our confirmation bias based off of what the algorithm shows us, and you know, if it's political, it's right or left, and you get
Mhm.
one side of the story, and you think everybody's this opposite, just this direct opposite. But when you go talk to people, it's really not that. But uh, I think the algorithm's kind of leading our thought.
Yeah, it kinda designs what you're seeing, one, and then, like, maybe feeds into your opinion, right?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the
I mean, we did
confirmation
something
bias.
years ago. We were on tour and we were just messing around. I mean, this is old news at this point, but we were talking about this before. This is probably 7, 8 years ago. We are talking about how like stuff pops up on your phone. We said, let's all start talking about Windex just constantly. Different colors of Windex, different kinds of how much we love Windex. Man, I swear, next day we started getting Windex ads on our phone. And it
Yeah.
was just, we know now that that's how it goes. You know what I mean? But at that point, it was like, the hell is this? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It was crazy.
It's that retargeting. It's that
Yeah.
retargeting. And, you know, you think about, I think at least in our lifetime,
Hmm.
these are the most divisive times
Right.
that we've had. And, before the algorithm, well, before social media,
Hmm.
it was a lot different. You did talk to people. You might have a differing view, but, you could still talk and
Right.
those type of things. And whereas social media was supposed to bring us closer,
Hmm.
I think it's really brought us further away.
Absolutely. I agree, man. It's crazy because everything has a, divide and conquer. It's like everything there's we can walk in the street and you can meet a person and figure out one reason why you two shouldn't be friends. You see what I'm saying? Whether it's right and left or black and white, or you know what I mean? There's a million different reasons to create some divide between you and the next guy or me and the next guy, you know?
Yeah.
And that's interesting that we've gotten to that point in our world, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like we've lost, or we don't, maybe we haven't lost them, but we forgot what our shared values are.
Really well put. I like that.
What do you think our shared values are, though?
Currently, like these days in
Yeah. What would
general,
you say as humans? What are our shared values that we should all kind of theoretically agree on?
I feel like if aliens came from outer space to attack Earth, we'd figure it out real quick. You know what I'm saying? Our shared values, I mean, just self-preservation, right? Like, you know, I guess making the world a better place and continuing to thrive. That would be my guess. Shared values,
Think it'd be importance of family,
100,000%. I think that's, in my opinion, the utmost. You know what I mean?
the importance of friendship,
Friendship, family, yeah.
love.
Love is, I feel like, the most powerful, important force in the universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Being just generally good to people,
Right.
kindness.
Making the world a better place even when no one is looking, you know?
Yeah. So, we have these ideas of, what are our shared values? And we have all these things that are tearing them down,
Hmm.
so it seems that we got to figure out a way to kind of get those things back together
Right.
and, realigned and the like and realize that maybe we do have the same shared values. A lot of them, most of us do.
Right.
And we're forgetting what's important.
I agree. I agree 100%. And I think there's things designed and put in place for who knows what reason. We can speculate. But I mean, it seems like that's designed that way. You know what I mean? For some reason to get people off track of what the bigger picture is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, and the importance of family. I mean, I look at, feel like the family unit in many ways is being torn apart right
Hmm.
now. And, you know, people might figure it out, but hopefully not before it's too late.
Right.
You've had a tough, few months,
Right.
you know, what advice, and yeah, your mom passed away a few months ago.
Hmm.
What advice would you give to somebody, just after experiencing what you just experienced?
Man, spend time with your loved ones, man. Like I know that's easy to say. My mom lived an hour away and I'm super busy and she had her thing going on and we talked every single day. And a lot of that came to me years ago again through mushrooms, man. It was like understanding the importance of one day this human will no longer be here,
Mm,
right? And I made every decision, whether it was, asking her for advice or helping her out or, making sure I visited every decision within the back of my mind. How am I going to feel when she's no longer with me?
mm,
And I think that's part of the strength that is helping me in the grieving process is, I mean, not to get too deep, but I honestly haven't really broke down.
mhm,
I've had a couple times like reading things I've written about her where I've gotten choked up. But I feel like I dealt with a lot of the grief. I actually spoke to you when I was in the hospital. I had a lot of I felt like I dealt with a lot of it while in the hospital fighting with her, for her, advocating for her.
mhm.
I mean, I went hard, man.
Mm,
I went
you did.
hard, hard. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I was ready for whatever. I mean, at the very end, I ended up pulling her out of Cookville and putting her in my SUV against medical advice per one of our brothers who's a attorney.
Mhm,
And he kind of laid down the rules for me and told me how to go about it properly. Man, I put her in the SUV, raced her to Vanderbilt, took her to the ER, and we continued to fight the battle. And my thing would just be, man, it's more important than we can even say out loud. You know what I mean?
mhm,
So I think the reason why I've been able to deal with it, like I've actually gotten confused a couple times. Like, man, why am I dealing with this so well? You know what I mean? Like, I loved her more than any human or creature on this planet. Why is it not just tearing me apart?
mhm,
I'd had a friend in the past die. Man, I laid in bed for 2 months.
mhm,
They put me on Xanax and all kinds of shit. And this is different. It hasn't, and I think it's because of our incredible relationship, the time we spent, the happiness we shared. You know what I mean? And I don't have any regrets. When I parked at the hospital, I parked the car and I didn't get back into the car until someone brought me my other car and took her to the hospital. I literally stayed with her every single moment in the hospital. You know what I
mhm.
mean? So,
No regrets. Yeah, I mean, she was proud, and
right.
you know, it's cool too, and working in the cancer hospital for a long time,
Hmm.
uh, got to see, the best and worst in people, and those type of things to me bring out, like with what you just shared,
Hmm.
was the best in people, where you're willing to do anything for
Absolutely.
your mom. You're willing to, carry her out and drive her to Vanderbilt against what
Hmm.
people say is good. And at that point when she's close to passing, it's more about the effort and
Right.
just knowing. See, you did everything you possibly could.
Everything. Right.
There's not one more thing that you could have done.
Right.
And you went above and beyond what, even other good sons would have done
Right.
for their mom. So, that's love. That's a shared
Right.
value too.
Absolutely.
That unconditional love for your mom and
Hmm.
her unconditional love for you. And when you have that connection, it's a beautiful
Man, it's a
thing.
beautiful thing. It's what we live for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day, that thing I think is what makes this all worth it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's something that in some ways we're missing or forgotten in society.
Right.
And, reminders of, for instance, like your story, like a
Hmm.
reminder, like my mom last week, all of a sudden, actually about 10 days ago, all of a sudden, couldn't walk, her
Mm.
hip. And, she was a veteran. VA takes forever. And she didn't let me know. I didn't know. I was in Mexico and I called her on Monday or Tuesday last week, and she said, "Oh yeah, I've been in bed for like 4 days. I can't really move." And I called my doctor, and then the VA brought her in to do an X-ray,
Hmm.
and she basically has a piece of her hip growing out, and it's digging into uh, the hip bone and like kind of drilling a hole in her hip. Long story short, uh, she can't walk, and
Mm.
I get involved, and you know, it's like getting things done no matter what. I'm like, no, no, we'll
Right.
get you into this doctor and we'll get it done the next day, and you're
Right.
not going to wait. And, but it's a reminder. And, you
Mhm.
saying that you talk to your mom every day. I haven't been talking to my mom. If I would have
Mhm.
talked to her every day, I would have known immediately
Mhm.
and been able to help her immediately rather than, her going 4 days. Oh, I didn't want to worry you,
Mhm. I know that part.
you know, and it's like, you're
Mhm.
not worrying me. Let me fix this for you. And I,
Right.
I want to be able to help you. But I'm glad that you just said that because it's making me think I need to talk to my mom and dad every single day.
Yeah, man. I mean, that was so we had such a good relationship, like, in that regard, in the hospital. I mean, every time they stuck her with a needle, 4 a.m., 2 p.m., any time of day, I got up and I held her hand. And she eventually, it was like 4 a.m. one time, and she was like, "You don't have to keep doing that. I feel bad." I said, "Look, every time they're gonna put you in an uncomfortable situation, I'm gonna hold your hand."
That's beautiful, man.
And she was there for me when I had that Guillain Barre, and we actually both got what they call ICU psychosis from the beeping in the
Hmm.
ICU. She got it too because she wouldn't leave the hospital. So it was like roles reversed. When she was trying to, same thing. My mom had my calendar, and I wish I never gave it to her. Like partly joking, but I used to tell her like she would look at my calendar and see a bunch of stuff going on that I had to do. It wouldn't call me to go with her places. I kept telling her, I said, "Man, everything I have on that calendar is below priority when it comes to you."
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you supersede all these things in the world. So, there's that. But I feel like just understanding that this time is short, and man, when it's time to go, it'll come out of nowhere. You know what I mean? And that's a tough lesson to learn.
Yeah, for sure. It can happen in an instance.
Yeah.
I mean, with the cancer patients that we've dealt with over the years, you know, society in general doesn't see it all the time. I guess, but when
Right.
you have a cancer hospital, you see it all the time. You know, age, young 20, 30 years old, out of nowhere, you're diagnosed with metastatic cancer, 6 months to live, 12 months to live.
That young.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
It's not,
That's crazy.
it's not common, but we see it all the time.
Right.
And, it's a new perspective, gives you a new perspective on life. You know, having that experience with those people every day and
Hmm.
then seeing the ones that live the longest with it. We had a patient that comes to mind. Her name was Laura Payne. Actually, I actually have her book. Yeah, Laura's Healing Journey,
Oh
right there.
wow.
That was her dad wrote that book, but we became close with the family, and she was the most bubbly, person ever. Laura's probably 33, 34,
Hmm.
just full of love and life, and she was put in hospice in Knoxville. This is before I knew her,
Hmm.
and I would give the orientations for the hospital. This is in Tijuana,
Hmm.
and I would give the orientations, and I looked in the back of the room, and there was a lady, and she had a big tumor coming out of her head, and she had an eye patch on, and I was like, "Ooh," because we would screen patients because if they were too far gone, we wouldn't want them to come.
And that makes
It's
complete
like it's
sense.
a
Yeah.
yeah. But then also we wanted to be fair. We want to give people a fighting chance too. So that was always a balance.
Right.
And I was like, oh man, maybe she shouldn't. Maybe it's too far for her. And then I found out she drove from Knoxville there with her husband Cody because the plane would put too much pressure on her head,
Oh my goodness.
and she was blind in one eye. That's why she had the patch. And but she was just the sweetest person, and got to talking to her. Well, about 2 weeks later, I get a text from her,
Hmm.
and she said, "I can see."
Wow.
And we couldn't really see the tumor shrinking, but we knew that since she was getting her sight back, that it had to be shrinking. And over the next 4 months, we get about a 90%, 80 to 90% decrease in her primary tumor. And she fought it for about 3 years, and she finally passed in June of 2020. But her spirit the entire time, and
Hmm.
someone who's facing death, but can have that gratitude for everything that's life. I mean, that perspective has taught me, and I know my business partner, so much because, you know, tomorrow is not certain.
Right. No, and you guys see a lot of success in what you're doing over there that we might not see over here as much, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, yes. I mean, we would see. I always say we're really good at extending life without harsh side effects. We're not very good at curing cancer.
Got it.
That's
Okay.
how I believe. That's kind of what I've. If I were to learn, that's it. But no, neither is conventional medicine though.
No,
That's the thing.
exactly.
Nobody has a cure for cancer.
Right. And it's got to be rewarding though to be able to offer something unique and different
It is.
that's benefiting people.
It's amazing. It's amazing, especially considering that mainstream says it doesn't work at all.
Mm,
You know, I've seen metastatic cancer cured. We've cured metastatic cancer multiple times.
right.
And do we do it on a regular basis? No.
Right.
But you can't
But they
deny
say it's
they
impossible.
say it's impossible. Yeah. And you know, the immunotherapies have
Hmm.
really come on. Won a Nobel Prize in 2011, immunotherapy for cancer in 2018. And so you see there's something called checkpoint inhibitors,
Hmm.
and they really started being prescribed 2017, 2018, 2019. And so we were at immunotherapy hospital. So, um, you know, looking now, a lot of times we might have gotten better responses in 2015, 16, 17, 18 before all those new immunotherapies had come out. And so it's actually, we're changing a lot of the model of the hospital right now to make it like CHIPSA 5.0, where we
Right.
have the best diagnostics. We use really cool combination immunotherapy. We're making our own cellular vaccines. But yeah, I mean, one of my scientists, uh, Franco Marincola, he was the chief of immunogenetics for the National Institute of Health. Actually wrote one
Wow.
of the main textbooks that oncologists use for immunotherapy for cancer. He said, this is what he told me in 2018. He's like, yeah, what I did 15 years ago wasn't considered real science.
That's crazy.
But now, you know,
Right.
so the science has caught up a lot. But for a long time, you know, CHIPS has been there for like over 40 years now. So it was so far ahead, in my opinion, of the mainstream then.
Right.
Um, but now things are catching up.
Well, that's really incredible that you got that going down there.
No, thanks, man. You know, it's been a labor of love,
Right.
a lot of
No, I can
work,
imagine.
but it's been worth it. Yeah, talk about one of the things that we haven't talked about that I know that you're a big proponent of that I was involved with uh, eh, pretty heavily. Gosh, 15 years ago or so,
Hmm.
was, is the psychedelics.
Psychedelics, yeah.
Yeah. So, what's your experience with the psychedelics and kind of how, tell me about that journey?
Well, growing up, I mean, it started as just, using psychedelics like anybody else would just to get stoned, you know what I mean? LSD or mushrooms, that type of thing. And then there was one particular night that kind of changed everything for me. And me and a friend split about an ounce. And I was just, watching Apocalypse Now and everything was normal. We were just tripping out. I went to the bathroom to get sick because it was making my stomach sick. Threw up, and then when I was cleaning up myself, I turned around and looked and saw what looked like a translucent hole in reality open up. And in that, you could see through it, but you could also see, like, you know how it is, like when you're on mushrooms and you see things, but you can also see through those things. Like particularly or specifically when your eyes are closed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw what looked like, it's one of the few times, like with my eyes open, I saw something like this. It was like a translucent hole in reality, and it was like an Indian goddess dancing, and her dance was so rhythmically perfect that it was like pistons in an engine. There was no flaw in her rhythm.
Hmm.
And I remember walking toward that and thinking to myself, I want to go inside there. Right. And at that same moment, when I said I want to go inside there, it was almost like telepathically. She didn't say it out loud, but it was like telepathically. She let me know, if you come here, you die there. And it scared me. And when I felt the fear, that it just went away.
Mm-hmm.
The hallucination was gone. That was the night that I said, okay, there's something more to this. And it took, man, years and years. Like for a long time, I would still use them inside. Then I've grown, fast forward to now. When I take them, I like to take them outside, almost always, in nature, obviously.
Mhm.
I like to enter the journey with respect, speak to the medicine that I'm using. You know what I mean? Have an intention of what it is. Even if the intention is just to for consultation and not a specific thing like biting my fingernails or quit drinking alcohol. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I like to have an intention going into the journey. And sometimes it's best for me when I'm not in the right headspace. And I don't encourage people who aren't experienced, with using these substances to use them while they're in a bad headspace. But sometimes that's when I need them most.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But that's also built up over a long period of time to get to that point.
Mhm.
Like sometimes, man, if I'm not all right, this psilocybin will help, like you said, reset. You know what I mean? Like kind of clear out the cobwebs and get me back where I need to be and recalibrate, understand the bigger picture and what I need to do to be on track with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. What's your kinda go-to? Is it, you like the mushrooms?
Psilocybin is my go-to. Yeah, I don't really deal with you got to be careful these days. Like LSD, there's no telling what the hell they're giving you.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So mushrooms, I like the fruits. I don't really and I don't have a problem with it or anything like that, but like I like to stick to the fruits as opposed to, the candies and chocolates and stuff like that.
Mhm.
If I knew who grew them or saw where they came from, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But you just got to be careful, man. They put stuff in these things, these days.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And
Mhm.
I've also, well, not just heard, I mean, I know there's different potencies to the mushrooms too, so it's
Mhm.
hard to tell what you're getting as far as strength of.
Right. How much are they putting in there? How much made it to this piece of the bar? That type of thing. I mean, and there's also like speaking of fruits, from my experience, there's different potencies. There's also different, like I like to say, there's like different spirits for these different entheogens. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like one, like say Yeti, for instance, may be Yeti strain may, for instance, be like a more fun, you know, it's just more about laughing, and then something like maybe Golden Teachers might just take you really deep. It's like grandfather energy. You learn a lesson, you come back with something way more serious. So I believe in like over a period of time, I feel like I've built a relationship with the spirit of Golden Teachers. I mean,
Hmm.
it's man, I've consulted on a number of things and come out successfully based on what I learned during these journeys. So I like to always consult. Mother's Day, after that whole thing happened,
Mhm.
I went and ate 9 grams of mushrooms.
Said how many?
Nine.
9 grams?
Yeah,
My
9 grams.
gosh.
And that was Yeti. They're really potent. Um, and man, I ended up trying to drag my air mattress back up the trail and just went back to sleep in the forest and woke up in the rain. It was like pouring down rain. But yeah, man, it's like
How
I
was it?
think these
Was that the largest dose you've done?
no, largest I've ever done was 20 grams.
20 grams
Yeah.
at
And that was
once.
yeah, it was about 30 minutes apart,
Sure.
10 and 10. I took the 10 in a peanut butter sandwich, to like try to mask the taste or whatever. And
Yeah.
I didn't think it was working, but what I think happened now is I wasn't used to having something like the peanut butter surrounding the mushroom, so it
Mm.
was taking my stomach longer to get past the peanut butter. You know what I mean? To
Yeah.
break down the psilocybin and the psilocin. And so then I ate. I told my girl I was gonna eat. I was like, I'm gonna eat another half ounce. I don't think these are very strong. She was like, No, 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 no. You only need to take like another 5. I said, Well, I'll meet you in the middle. I'll take another 10. That's right. And man, that one was beyond
How long?
like how long was the trip?
Yeah.
I would say 6 hours, somewhere around there.
Okay, so it's still even though
Uh,
you took that much, it didn't, like, go on for a day or anything.
nah, it wasn't longer time wise, it was just more potent. You know what I mean? Like I was crawling across the floor, like puking in a wastebasket, trying to get to the bathroom. But I mean, it was beyond linguistics. It was like there's certain things I think I've tried to explain while tripping. Like we're writing a book right now, me and my fiance, and it's called Hello from Another Lifetime. And it's her recording, like she'll wait till the time is right on these high dose psilocybin trips, and she'll ask me questions that we've researched in advance,
Hmm.
right? Ahead of time. And we'll record them. And then the next day when I'm level headed, I'll do like stream of consciousness writing to elaborate on my ideas. and she's a writer. So then she'll go in deep dive, and we just keep going. And then we take those ideas after we get half the chapter and then take that back to the trip. And that's the psychedelic archaeology, right? So it's called Hello from Another Lifetime Psychedelic Archaeology. And it's ideas bringing back from the mushroom. You know what I mean? So I consider the mushroom as one of the authors. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, some things I've noticed, like when you're purging, when you're getting sick, some of the purging isn't necessarily physical. Some of it's spiritual or energy. It's like sounds and grunts and that type of thing. You know what I mean? And I've tried to explain to her something I'm seeing at a certain point, and I can say I feel okay. I can say things like, I got to use the bathroom. I can say things like that, but when I try to explain what's going on, I'll gag.
Mm,
It's like there's something like, nope, you don't have the right to say that out loud.
interesting.
You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I do.
It's like this is so high level. You got to experience this. You got to face your fears and have the courage to go through this to receive this. Dead serious. I've tried to say things out loud before and just can't even get it out, but I can say other things. That's what's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm go to and interesting to circle back to the family thing. Like as as I was using these mushrooms, man, there was times I would wake up in the morning and like just want to go give my parents all my money. And I know that sounds ridiculous, you know what I mean? But I've done it a couple times. Like, just here, just take all that. I don't need nothing. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? We don't want that. And I'm like, no, no, no. I'm gonna leave it on the curb if you don't take it. Or just, email somebody in the early in the morning and just tell them how much you love them because you've been through this incredible journey and realized what this is all about for a brief period. You might not retain that. You know what I mean? But I got her into it. She would come out with me and my dad. And one experience I had with my dad, first time he took mushrooms with me, we took a canoe down the river in Carthage from Betty's Island. And it was like 6 a.m. And I think we both took like a quarter. And man, at one point, we fell out of the canoe. Luckily, it wasn't too deep. I'm like crawling around. My dad's laughing, pointing over. It was crazy. But then we get on the shore or whatever, the side of the river, and my dad's looking up at this. We're both looking up at this eagle, and I'm like thinking how beautiful and majestic, and like I'm like really enthralled by like the magic of this creature flying through the sky, right? And my dad's kind of talking a little shit about it. He's like, oh, who you think you are? Oh, you think you're a badass, don't you? I see you like just talking all this shit, and I was like, I was getting frustrated, but I kept my mouth shut. I was like, all right, I ain't gonna say nothing. It's really starting to bother me though. And then he just out of talking shit, he's like, yeah, I see this and that. And then he goes, hey man, bear with me. This is my first time. I understand what you're saying, but just work with me, okay? And he said, did that just happen? And I said, think so. And for that brief moment, I mean, it was like telepathy, man. I was saying in my mind, like, man, shut up, man. What are you doing talking to this bird like that? And we both realized it at that moment, so me and him started doing that more often. And then my mom would come out with us and she would just chill while we were doing it. And then she started taking like, more micro dose. I took her on one big dose.
Mhm.
Um, it was it was a lot for her, but then she started doing the micro dose thing and all that. And interesting, interesting thing. And as you know, like when they're trying to give someone who's that sick, uh, sometimes they can't give them feeding tubes. They can't feed them. They just can't get any,
Yeah.
nutrients or anything. And she wasn't really able to stomach like the I can't remember what it was, not Pedialyte, but Ensure or something like that. They were
Mhm.
giving her stuff like that. And man, when we got her back home on hospice, at one point, I just took her little bit that she would take every day. You know what I mean? And I put it in a cup of about that much water. And I put vitamin B and turkey tail in there too. I mixed it up and held her head and just to see if she could. And man, she drank that. And the last words she said on this earth, she pointed at that cup and said, "That's good." That's the last thing she ever said. I was like, "Wow, that's
Wow.
crazy." You
It's
know?
awesome.
Yeah, but the mushrooms, man, they've definitely shaped who I am. Where I'm at in life. They've helped me with alcohol, like me and you had talked about earlier, and it's pretty tremendous, man. Pretty tremendous the magic of what they're capable of.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. You know, with the writings that you're doing.
Mhm.
What are some of the things that the mushrooms, uh, have said per se, that you've got to write?
It's it's, let me think, like, how do I put this into words? Because it's a really deep, really, really deep book. It's it's hard for me to put into words without, like, reading you something, you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
it's not really lessons, like, some of it's stories, some of
Mm.
it's ideas, like, like astral projection, for instance. Like, there was an instance when I'll tell you something really, really awesome that happened to me. This is the craziest thing that's ever happened to me on psychedelics in my whole life. Um, my mom had bought me a medicine cabinet from the Yoruba tribe, right? So it was a Yoruba shaman's medicine cabinet. We didn't know, we didn't seek that out on
Hmm.
purpose, but it was at a museum that was going out of business. And we got that. I put the mushrooms in the cabinet when we got it, did a little research or whatever, got in the Uber to go to the airport because we're flying to Europe for tour. And the Uber driver, he was driving me there asking where I was from, who I am, this and that. And I asked him, I said, where are you from? He's driving, everything's regular. And he said, I'm from a place you may have heard of called Yoruba. And he looked at me and made eye contact. And it was almost like something else was speaking through him for that brief second.
Wow.
He said, swear to God, he said, from a place you may have heard of called Yoruba. And then got back to it and smiled at me. And I was like, he said something. I said, what'd you say? It was in their language. And it's, from my understanding, is modern day Nigeria. So I'm assuming he was speaking Nigerian. But he said something and I said, what is that? He said, I said, may God watch over you on your journey. I said, okay, cool. So I said, can I record it? I won't post it on the internet or anything. He said, sure. So I did that. Then I came back from Europe, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks later, because that's when COVID happened, the whole lockdown. We were
Mhm.
leaving Cologne, Germany, when we had to make the decision to cancel the tour. And I came back, took probably 9 grams of those mushrooms that were in the cabinet. Man, when I tell you at one point I laid back and I said, who is that? And my girl, she always lays behind me. So if I need to feel like I'm alone, I feel like I'm alone. If I need her there, she's right there.
Mhm.
So I said, who is that? She says, just me. And I said, no, 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 no. Who is that? And it was like 3 seconds later. It only lasted about 3 seconds, but as real as me and you sitting here right now, I mean, as real as this physical reality, I was laying on my back and I couldn't see my own body, but I was surrounded by African people, tribal people. And their gear, their garb could have been futuristic, it could have been from the past, I don't know. And I feel like I was either being born or dying.
Mm.
Whatever that moment was that important. And I felt love from them and I felt love for them. So I feel like there's some weird connection to this Yoruba thing through these mushrooms. And I don't quite understand why or what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's the first time I've like literally went to a place that was as real as this physical reality. And like I said, it was about 3 seconds. It
Mhm.
wasn't very long at all. But it was some other stuff, man.
Interesting. Yeah, that's, I mean, it's hard to explain, to people who haven't kind of gone there,
Mhm.
what that is. Uh, I work with Ibogaine, which is Iboga.
Mhm.
Are you familiar with?
I've definitely heard of it. I've never had the opportunity to work with it.
Yeah,
But yeah, can you tell me about it?
sure, yeah. So, Ibogaine comes from the Tabernacle Iboga root, which is in Gabon, Africa. It's what the Bwiti use for the rites of passage ceremony. Ibogaine is one alkaloid. And it bonds to the opiate receptor, blocks 100% of opiate withdrawals.
Oh, wow.
Um, and the newer, like the fentanyl, the synthetics,
Mhm.
it works differently. There's different protocols now that I'm not familiar with, but short lasting opiates like heroin, Oxycontin, like I've
Mhm.
never seen Ibogaine not work on the withdrawal. Like you can take somebody doing 3 grams of heroin a day for 10 years and give them Ibogaine, and they might have a little leg twitch, but
Mhm.
they're not going to experience any major withdrawal with it. And it's about a 24 to 36 hour trip, but it's extremely strong
Mhm.
medicine, very introspective. Doing a deep dive,
Right.
inside yourself. I actually had an African guide uh my first time,
Oh, wow.
and he's a big fat dude, jolly
Yeah,
giant,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it's just really joyous, type person. But it took me through, gosh, it was really rough for me,
Right.
the first time. And, yeah, but it's like a movie of my life. Like you're 4 years old and, your dad says something to you and you realize you might be this way because of that.
Oh,
And you're
wow.
6 and, you have, something that you completely forgot. Someone was mean to you and it taught you that you're not good enough for whatever reason. Or, there's
Mm,
lots of that. And it's been, I guess, I said 15 years earlier. I think it's 2010, I believe. So
mhm,
13 years actually. But um yeah, and I went there for opiate addiction.
mhm,
So I was training professional fighters and I threw a tie kick and tore my LCL, PCL meniscus. We had team doctors that gave us prescription pain pills.
mhm,
And so I was on them for about 2 years. And I went to quit one day, went through
mhm.
withdrawal. And over the next 6-month period or so, I tried multiple times to quit. And the withdrawal got me every time. So I went to a therapist and I said, hey, I'm completely functional running my companies, but I'd rather have a clear brain and deal with the pain than a foggy brain and no pain.
Right, right.
And he said, America's behind the times when it comes to opiate withdrawal. Google Ibogaine. And so I Google Ibogaine, and it's illegal in America.
Mhm.
It's legal in Mexico. And so I was skeptical though. I was like, man, that sounds weird. Watched a
Mhm.
couple documentaries. Was like, you know what? I believe those people.
We'll
You
give
know
it a
what? You
shot.
know how you can tell when people are at least telling that like I believe them. I'm
Right.
gonna give it a shot. Yeah. So I took a plane to Mexico City, took a bus a couple hours south to a place called Tepoztlan, Mexico.
Mm.
We had to go there sometime, man. You would
That'd be
love.
awesome.
It's a very, very spiritual town,
Yeah, yeah.
mountain town, Copper Mountains. This is beautiful. And yeah, there was a place called Iboga Quest.
Mhm.
My friend Barry runs it, and basically it was like a little compound. Uh, I did ibogaine in one of the bedrooms, basically,
Really?
and had a deeply perspective. It scared the shit out of me. I remember, if it was you take it, people take it however they take it,
Mhm.
and I realized my biggest fear was my mom and dad were going to die without knowing how much that I love them.
Wow.
I remember calling my mom, like, bawling. I was in the middle of it. You weren't supposed to have your phone. I was like,
Right.
I just
Yeah.
wanted to tell her how much I loved her, and that was a bonding experience, and my dad. It was a
That's dope.
bonding experience that I am so grateful for
Right.
because they knew then there was no question. They said, "No, of course, Ed, we know." But, you know,
Mhm.
it's just something like when you can really express that and they know, it's
Right.
that connection you can't even really explain.
Right.
And, yeah, I never did another opiate. I was home 72 hours later. Never had a withdrawal, never craving nothing.
Isn't that crazy? Like something and it's I mean, it's obviously just like mimosa hostilis or something. It's a natural
Yeah, it comes from
occurring.
the iboga root. It's a root bark that
Okay.
and then you take out the ibogaine, specific alkaloid. Um, and, it is dangerous though. Like it can actually kill
I've
people.
heard that.
If
Like
you
if
have a
they don't administer it properly.
Yeah, or if someone has heart issues,
Okay.
like they have to do a EKG beforehand if they have what's called a prolonged QT ratio, which is something to do with the, you know, um, electricity going through the heart.
Right.
And and it is deeply energetic. I remember I had something in my solar plex. I was laying there and I would almost like, and something would come out of my solar plexus and I'd go down. This is popping.
Damn.
Um, and I did it three times, two other times for more psycho spiritual reasons.
Mhm.
And I did a little bit of what you were talking about, where I would ask it questions.
Mhm.
And I'm much more close to God now, much more Christian now than I was.
Mhm.
I grew up that way, grew up Church of Christ, but got away from Christianity for a long time, and I was kind of just you know against organized religion. And I asked the uh, ibogaine. I
Mhm.
said, is this good or bad? And it actually showed me why it's a good thing, and it shows me how that faith in God uh, gives people hope.
Mhm.
And if we don't have hope, we don't have anything.
Wow.
And it allowed me to really dig into the Christianity part of it.
Right.
and make my own journey towards it. Didn't necessarily give me answers on, the details, but
Mhm.
it opened the door to really go down that path more and not be ashamed of it.
Right.
I felt like there was a lot of shame in my Christianity. I'm not exactly sure why now,
Mhm.
but I did feel that way for a while. And
It's interesting it helped you get out of that.
mhm. And it showed me too how the world has been built up and destroyed multiple times in layers. It's
Wow.
like went from beautiful, green nature to starting to build up over time, then buildings, then concrete, then destruction. And
Right.
then did it over and over and over again. That was an interesting thing that it showed me. Whether that's real or not, who knows?
Right.
But that's what that experience was. So yeah, I mean it's pretty profound. And then we had a treatment facility for opiate addicts. So
So you do that also?
no, we used
Or
to.
used to?
We
Okay.
stopped, and then when we opened CHIPSA, part of CHIPSA was going to be we were going to do Ibogaine and the cancer,
Right.
but the patients just didn't mix. So you have
I
a
can see
dying
that.
cancer patient and a heroin addict,
Right.
in the same hospital. They just the energy wasn't right,
It didn't
and
feel right.
so no, yeah.
See, I would like to try the Ibogaine for the psychospiritual reasons, like you said, to
Mm.
experience that. But that's crazy that it binds to those receptors, the same as the
Oh
opiates.
yes, it works every single time. Now it's not like a cure for addiction.
Right.
People say have to work through their issues, and a lot of times the Ibogaine, the plant will uh, teach people why they became an addict.
Mhm.
It gives them that opportunity, but then
Mhm.
they have to want to do the work afterwards.
Right.
But it always works in the short lasting opiate withdrawal. Like, I mean, 95% of it's wiped out every single time.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And
I've heard a lot. I haven't had the chance to work with it yet, but like with the mushrooms and alcohol, like I can drink now. I'm not a sober person or anything like that. I can have a drink. I used to be the guy that would drink and then wake up and I'm in jail, something happened, a thousand of those stories. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Like bad things happen, don't know why, you know that you screwed up. So to be able to advance in my career, in my life, with my happiness, I couldn't keep. It's not fair that some people black out. You know what I mean? It's not fair, but it is what it is. You got to deal with it accordingly, right? So I just kept it as an intention while I was using these mushrooms, and it amazed me because I thought if it did work, it would make me just stop drinking. But that isn't what happened. What happened was I lost the taste. I don't really like the way
Mhm.
alcohol tastes,
Mhm.
or it's like it makes me feel a certain way after a couple drinks, and I think that's a good thing. You know what I mean? And it might treat other people differently. It might cure or heal other people differently. In that regard, I'm still around. I mean, we do like whiskey bottle signings and where we wake up on a tour bus at a liquor store and go to sleep after an after party. The entire day revolves around drinking whiskey. And this all happened like right before that. And on that whole run, I didn't take one sip of anything on purpose, just to prove to myself that I could, you know, drive this ship under these circumstances and come out successfully. And then when I'm not working, of course I'll have my drinks, I'll do what I need to do. But now, for whatever reason, and I give all credit to this mushroom, I'm able to control that. You know what I mean? I don't have those issues like I had in the past.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I believe it's tied to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there's so much teaching that the plants can do. Are
Right.
you following, are you following what's going on with like maps?
Yeah, big time.
What's your view on it?
As far as what part, like legalization or like the I know they're trying to patent psilocybin.
Yeah.
I mean, my personal opinion, like, I'm not really a fan of patenting something that grows out of the ground naturally. You know what I mean? It's like patenting an apple. I mean, I guess somebody has, maybe they have, I don't know. But it's something natural. It's like, so what happens once they patent it? Does that mean that me and you can't grow it and eat our own mushrooms? That will then be illegal in that sense?
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I mean, I have yet to experience decriminalization or legalization outside of traveling around and seeing what they've done with cannabis. But I've heard that there's a lot of, downsides to legalization.
Yeah, my concern with it is, you think about how a lot of the plants have been exploited,
Right.
and I'm not sure capitalism in the sense of capitalism for profit, these plants that are meant to be given away,
Right.
isn't going to turn out bad. Think about opium. That was given, and it was a very, very good thing
Mhm.
for throughout history. It was synthesized and patented and
Mhm.
in all different forms. You have all these different things
Mhm.
that are out there, and now it's a bad thing, in my opinion.
Right.
Sure, it can control some people's pain, but
It's
overall,
created an epidemic.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's
I
great.
mean, overall, it's really bad, and there's probably other ways to deal with it if you had to weigh the pros and cons of, you know what I mean, the
Yes,
situation.
yes.
I
Same
agree.
thing with tobacco.
Mhm.
All the
Tobacco is like the
chemicals.
most sacred plant in the rainforest.
Yeah, it's turned into a bad thing. But now what does it do? Causes lung cancer. It's just not good for you. It's all these chemicals in the tobacco.
Right.
Um, and so I look at like those two examples
Mhm.
where it's plant medicine, and it's turned out bad. I feel like the plants have their own spirits.
1000%.
You know, people might
Mhm.
think we're crazy if they haven't been there, but I think that's correct. They have their
Mhm.
own something, some type of connection, and it draws something out of people that's maybe themselves, but I guess yeah, I mean, what I'm talking about.
It's like it wakes you back up to what's real, you know what I mean? It's like I've had times, man, where it's like I woke up for the first time, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And realized like, wow, wait a minute, everything I thought I should focus on, I'm confused. You know what I mean? Like it's way bigger picture than that.
Yeah,
You know, and like you said, people may think we're crazy, but I mean, I've gotten to the point where in my own reality, I know these plants have spirits. You
sure.
know what I mean? And sure, we like you said, we probably look crazy, but they've taught me things, and I went in to consult. You know what I mean? To learn on purpose
Yeah.
and receive message. I always joke around with a couple friends and say like, if this is all in my head, then I'm a lot smarter than I think.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm getting things from what seems to be outside of myself.
Yeah.
You know, one time I'll tell you about kind of off topic, but my toilet. I was laying in the bathroom, and my toilet turned into this weird like chiseled stone face, and I just was like, thought it was crazy looking or whatever. I'm tripping. Then I went to Teotihuacan outside of
Oh,
Mexico
yeah, I've
City.
been there a couple times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the Temple of Quetzalcoatl,
Yeah.
where it has like the crocodiles coming out chiseled into. That's exactly what my toilet turned into, and I'd never seen that
Oh,
before.
interesting.
So I thought that was crazy. You know what I mean? Like seeing like Mayan thing or whatever it is, Aztec or Mayan things
Yeah.
before having actually seen them in person.
Did you take some mushrooms at
I didn't, man. I wish I did, but
we gotta go out there too. So when we go to Tepoztlan first, it's
mm-hmm.
about 4 hours north of Tepoztlan. I always say it wrong, Teotihuacan.
Dude, I would love to go there. Have you been to Ekbalam?
No, I have not.
You got to check Ekbalam too. It's like I was there, I don't know, a year or two ago, and there were some guys who were definitely tripping there. They were like hiding off in the temples, and I was like, damn, I wish I was on that right now.
Yeah,
But yeah, that would be killer to go to Teotihuacan and do that.
yeah. That whole area, like Mexico's got some just amazing. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this is the third and fourth largest pyramids in the world. Right there.
Right there.
Pyramid
Yeah.
of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon.
And Cholula, you been there?
No.
So I went to Cholula one time. I mean, it's mostly covered in grass and dirt. I can't remember where it's at in Mexico. We're all over the place. I want to say it's within a couple hours of Mexico City. That could be wrong, but it has a Catholic church built on top, and
Hmm,
it's mostly covered in grass and dirt. But you can see at the bottom, where it's sticking out of the dirt, and it's supposed to be the largest pyramid on planet Earth, not the highest, but the footprint is the
interesting.
biggest. Yeah, bigger than Giza.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole there's a lot of Mexico, to explore with that.
Mhm.
And getting back to the whole spirit thing with the plant,
Mhm.
that's why I am concerned by them patenting these plant medications that are meant for kind of everybody to have. It's not meant to be exploited,
Right.
and that's what pharma does.
Right.
They exploit things. So I appreciate the hard work of maps and everything that they've done,
Mhm.
but this thing could go bad
Absolutely.
because you might let the wrong cat out of the bag with the mushrooms or the some of the like some of the stronger psychedelics.
Right.
They're not meant to be profited off of.
No, and I love that you said that because I've had that before, like in the past years ago when I had cultivated and I had ended up with a little bit more than I expected. And, a couple buddies were like, "Oh man, can I get some? What do you want for them?" And I said, "Man, I'm not selling them. Like, if you need them, you can have them. Here you go." And no, I'll give you something. Good folks or whatever. And I said, "No, trust me, this is for me, not you." You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not. These things aren't for sale. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you just can't because you'll deal with it later. You know what I mean? You'll
Yeah.
deal with it in that experience. And I think maybe some of the people who are comfortable with profiting off of that maybe haven't went deep enough to understand that that's not
What it's meant
okay.
for.
No.
And I think there's a difference between someone maybe that grows mushrooms and sells them,
Right.
you know, at a fair, well, whatever they're doing, fair price, or the
Right.
same thing with weed. Of course, now
Right.
weed's legal pretty much uh, in most or in many states. But when it comes to the hardcore, I say hardcore, but I'm saying plant medicines that'll take you
Right.
deep.
Right.
Um, it's not meant to be exploited.
No, I agree. And I think there's gonna be a balance that people have to find with, figuring out how to make a living from providing an experience and not exploiting the plant. Right? Like
Yes,
someone who
yes,
spends their time helping people, healing people. They got to figure out a way to make a living, but also not just, I'm just turn and burn. I'll sell you a bag of mushrooms. It's like maybe you pay for the lodging and the experience,
yeah,
and in turn, the fruits come with the experience or something like that.
yeah. No doubt about it. I mean, that's it's something that I learned just from my experience. It's like, oh, wait a second, I don't think this is meant to be done this way.
I love that you said that because, yeah, I haven't heard a lot of people say that, but I mean, I feel that way 1000% the same.
Yeah.
Just because you will deal with it later. You'll feel it in your soul that that was not a good idea,
Yes.
you know?
And it could be gentle or it could be harsh. I mean,
Right.
I've had some bad trips for sure. I've had some good
Hmm.
trips.
Hmm.
I'm a lightweight too. I'm not somebody who can do that's done a large amount. Like if I did 9 grams, I might not come back.
Oh man, you got to come out with me one time and just under the right circumstances. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that's cool. But it's one of those things that it gives you what you need to see and feel in that moment if you're open to it,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And for me, after the bad ones, is when I have some of the best breakthroughs the next day. It's like I say bad
Same.
was the last bad one I had. Uh, I took more than I thought I'd taken. I'm sure we've all been there.
Hmm.
And kind of people had come over, and it was they were supposed to come over, but it just hit me. I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to be around people. And but I have enough experience where I was like, this is all going to be over at some point. And don't panic and relax and but it was yeah, it's almost like out of your mind. You
Absolutely.
just like you have to just like uh surrender
Right.
to what's going on and just kind of let out whatever it's telling you to let out.
Some of my best journeys, um, well, like you said, I like to refer to them as challenging trips. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
it's a bad experience for sure, but most of the time I think it's what I needed. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And I want to the first thing I want to do when I come out of that bad trip or challenging trip, the very first thing I want to do is, first of all, integrate, take my time period, and then run right back in and prove myself. You know what I mean? Like just going back to say, all right, cool, I got this. You know what I mean? I'm back and I've done what I was told to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Challenging. That's what I'm gonna start calling it instead of bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's challenging trip because it's what you need to know right then. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like let people tell me like, "Oh, it obviously you take it better than other people." I'm like, "Nah, man, it's about where you're taking it." They say set and setting. Where are you taking it? I mean, if I took it and walked down the street, I'd probably have a real bad trip. You know what I mean? I like to control everything, every aspect.
Mhm.
If we're inside, I want to know that the TV in the other room has the same movie on repeat constantly.
Mhm.
No commercial catches me off guard. Everything is under control. you know. But yeah, the challenging trips sometimes is what you need, you know. But sometimes I'll go in and it's like, man, I'm in a real. We all go through ups and downs in life, you know. Some days are great, some days aren't. But sometimes, like, come back from tour when it was just stressful, and you're dealing with promoters and this guy and that guy and all these different variables, and your mind is so busy and racing, and it's like, man, I'm scared to death to go in, but then I come out calibrated
Mm,
and I feel incredible. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And it's just navigating and, like you said, holding on for the ride. You know?
Yeah, just holding on for the ride. I mean, I stopped doing any psychedelics for a bunch of years,
Mm,
in between. And, it was because I had a DMT trip that, Scotty and I were going pretty deep
mm.
and going back in, and it finally kinda was spitting me out and says, Stop trying to figure everything else or just stop trying to figure everything out,"
Really?
you know? And you're not gonna get it. Uh, you know,
Oh wow.
and so I listened to it.
Mm,
It basically suggested I chill with the DMT and, didn't do any psychedelics for probably 7 years or so.
mm.
And because I think it's important to listen to the medicine too, if it tells you something.
I mean,
Like ayahuasca has not
absolutely.
like ayahuasca hasn't called me. You're like,
Right.
"Oh, why haven't you done ayahuasca?" I'm good. Like
Right.
I'm not attached to like I don't need to do it to feel good about myself.
Right.
And it's
Right.
not. I mean, the signs are actually no, right now it's not for you.
Right.
That makes sense.
I mean, I feel that way about ayahuasca and DMT sometimes. Specifically, like, it's easier for me to do high dose psilocybin than it is to do DMT. And I mean, I will do it. One time I tried, I said, man, for like, 3 or 4 days, I'm going to try DMT every morning when I wake up before I do anything. Right. And man, I started finding things that had been missing for months. Like, I would wake my girl up and say, hey, check this out, watch this. And I'd go turn some shit over and find the shirt she's been looking for. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it was almost like sharpening like baby superpowers or something. You know what I mean? Like mental, something where you're tapping into something crazy.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And but DMT, the very first time I took it was in Kauai with I don't know if you ever heard of a skater named Danny Way. He's one of the greatest to ever live. He jumped the Great Wall of China on a skateboard.
Hmm.
He's a good buddy of ours. But he kept telling me about DMT, and we were on this TV show in Kauai, and I did it for the first time there. And man, when I tell you, when I first hit it, I thought, "Oh shit, I'm dying right now.
Mm.
What did I do? Why did I do that?" You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yes.
And it's when people ask, it's like, man, you can't explain the feeling because it's unfamiliar to a human being.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's something I've never felt prior to that.
Yeah. Did you go through see the light? Did you go through it?
I did. I went through what felt like it was almost like an Apple computer ad. You know how they're like really clean, white, you know what I mean, background, and it was like best way I could describe it is like hieroglyphics made of clay that were transforming like transformers, and I was like flying through the center.
Did you see the machine elves
No, I
afterwards? No
didn't.
machine
I've
elves.
never seen that, and I don't know why. I
Yeah.
hear a lot about them. You know what I mean?
It's like anything with psychedelics, it'll come to you when it comes to you. If it doesn't, it
Right.
doesn't. Yeah.
That's the
Um,
thing with mushrooms. Like sometimes you said like calling. I mean, there's been random nights like a Tuesday night at 2 a.m. when I got to be somewhere in the morning, and I wake up and say, man, I got to do some mushrooms. I was like, wait a minute, I don't know if that's a good idea. I got to be up early, but then it's like, wait, I'm being called right now. And man, some of the best journeys ever are when I actually felt like something was telling me I needed to do it.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to listen to the plants, um, and not be attached to whether you're like, I did like I had a year's break, but I was like, no, I'm good.
Right.
Especially because psychedelics were becoming popular,
Mm-hmm.
and people would ask me about them all the time,
Right.
and so now is the time. Now, finally, this is what we kind of all wanted,
Mm-hmm.
from back in the day, but yeah, it just didn't call me. But now a little bit more with mushrooms.
Right.
And, I'll tell you another one, San Pedro, the cactus. I really want to.
I would love to do that. You haven't never experienced it? Me neither.
No,
San Pedro or Peyote. I haven't
peyote.
got the opportunity to do either one.
Yeah, I heard both are are good plants.
I've heard that's like a masculine thing too, like more, like Aya is feminine, and I've
Yes,
heard that peyote. Don't know much about San Pedro, but I've heard that peyote is like very, hence the drums they play and everything like that. It's
yes.
more of a masculine energy.
Yeah, I'm not sure about San Pedro whether what it is. I've heard it's like the MDMA of the plants though.
Oh, really?
That's how one friend explained it to me.
Hell yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean it's cool seeing it becoming more accepted.
Hmm.
Uh, just I don't want it to be exploited.
Agree.
And how we and this is going to sound crazy to certain people, but I think you'll know where I'm going. But how we treat the plants, the
Hmm.
respect that we have towards the trip that we're about to take or that somebody's about to take,
Hmm.
that has a lot to do with the outcome.
Right.
Because people that take it for granted, you can't take it for granted.
No, sir.
It'll whip you.
Buddy of mine, Emil, with a group called Bay Staters out of Massachusetts. They do a lot of. They've done several cities decriminalization,
Mhm.
and he's got a term I really liked. He says standing up for these plants. You know what I mean? It's like
Yes.
in every journey I enter into, I literally say a version of I enter this journey with respect for the mushroom and love for all creatures. I enter this journey with love for the mushroom and respect for all creatures. And then I'll say some kind of intention about this specific journey or whatever. And I think, it's important that you come into this with the utmost respect and understand you're a student, you know what I mean? And this ain't a game. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Dead is dead serious, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I love that about it. You
Yep.
know what I mean? That's what makes it slightly difficult and takes courage to enter.
Yeah.
But that's where the payoff comes in too. You know what I mean? But I think it's important to stand up for these plants and kind of be a vessel or a delegate, you know what I mean, to the people who aren't quite as informed. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
absolutely. Especially as it's going mainstream,
Right.
you
Right.
know.
And that's the thing about the book that we're working on is like it's more of her asking me questions instead of me asking questions, but it's definitely I don't think it'll be it wouldn't be like a New York Times bestseller type of vibe. It's more of like a I'm not saying that. I mean, hopefully it would be, but it's more of like it's really deep and it might be hard for like the uninitiated to completely digest, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? But I think the right people will really get it and it'll be dope.
That's awesome.
But it's her asking me the questions and me bringing, back from that space or whatever that is that we're receiving that from.
That's awesome.
And I think you have those ideas anyway, but it's just cool that she's present to record them and so I can elaborate later when I can make sense of it all,
Right, that's cool. How long have you been with your girlfriend?
Like 12
Oh,
years.
wow.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah, so you've been obviously through a lot together, and how did you start? I'm gonna say incorporating your relationship into the experience.
Well, when she used to take mushrooms and then for whatever reason over time, some people can't take them anymore. She got to that point, tried again, and it was just rough for her. She couldn't do it. But I continued to do it. And just naturally, like when I would take smaller doses, she would just be around. And then as I started figuring out or feeling like this was a real spiritual sacrament or something deeper is going on, she just went down a rabbit hole with me, you know what I mean? And just she'll just sit there and make sure I'm good, and if we're in the house, play my music for me and change it, you know what I mean, to what's right. You already know some stuff you turn on, you might love it when you're not in that realm,
Mhm,
but it ain't right then,
mhm,
So anyway, she'll sit there and do that. And then we just started having conversations. And as you know, sometimes you might go 3 hours without needing to talk to someone who's in that world.
mhm,
But she learned like when is okay to talk to me where I was comfortable. And then started asking questions. And then we were like, wait, we're on to something. You know what I mean? We started just doing it for the fun of it. And then it was like, man, let's make this book. And I was at an Airbnb that we rented in Carthage, Tennessee. And there was this really cool driveway facing like the mountains, not the Smokies, but like the foothills. And this is where the sun would rise. So I went out there about 3 o'clock in the morning, took a big dose, air mattress in the driveway, and it was really cool because it was like slanted. So you're kind of getting like a view like that of the sunrise. And that's where I came up with the title, Hello from Another Lifetime. I was laying there, was quiet for probably 3 hours. And as the sun was rising, it was like glaring in my face over the mountains. And I remember all this, again, I can't put it into words, but everything I was seeing. And then it was like something folded up a box that was flat. Like you buy a flat box and you put it together. It was like it folded up this box and then tied a bow on it and then put it under a bed that I felt like I was sitting on. And then it was over. The journey was over. And I looked up at her and I said, Hello from another lifetime. She's like, Wait, what are you talking about? And I said that it felt like I was a walkie-talkie for some kind of like alien child or something. You know what I mean? Like it didn't feel like it was me that said hello from another lifetime.
Yeah,
And that's when we came up with the title and then started taking it serious.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's taking, it might take us another year or two. I don't know when we'll be finished, editing,
Yeah,
production, that all takes a lot of time. But it's coming together really, really dope.
interesting. Interesting. What brought you down to Mexico when you went to Teotihuacan? Teotihuacan.
Teotihuacan,
Yeah.
we were filming a movie called Mudmouth, which is hopefully it'll release next year. So that's a whole nother story. But it was for Yelawolf's album Mudmouth, which is his. He had Sometimes Why Last, and before that we put out Mudmouth, and we filmed a whole movie, which was from the first song. It's like a merge of a musical, uh, a regular movie, some animation, and the reason why it was supposed to drop in 2021. The reason why it didn't come out is because the people they had hired to do the animation, we just didn't like it. We kept telling them, this ain't it. This ain't the vibe. It's about an LSD trip. And the LSD brand, if it was Orange Sunshine or something, it's called Mudmouth.
Hmm.
And Wolf had me be the chemist in the movie who's making the LSD. It's really cool. It's incredible, incredible cinema, man. This crew called Gorilla Hollywood and our boy Gorilla Mike filmed the movie. And we went to Mexico because there was some crazy, incredible DPs down there. And we could get things at a good rate and a different look. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? That type of thing.
Yeah.
But the animation, the cinema's all done. The movie looks incredible. But there's 3 songs where it goes to animated, and they just didn't hit the nail on the head. And we started searching for somebody new, and I found this guy through some friends, and I was like, man, it's perfect. Talked to his manager. They were like, oh, he's not available. So I let it go. I didn't even tell Wolf about it. And then like 3 weeks later, he came to me. He was like, yo, I found a perfect dude. And it was the same dude I found. And this guy's not just out there in front of everybody. Like, I don't even know where he found him. I said, that's crazy that you found him, man. I already talked to his manager. He's not available, this and that. He was like, man, I'm not hearing that, man. Let's make it happen. So we got a hold of him and told him what I just told you and ended up getting him on board. But he let us know it's going to be 16 months before I can deliver because, he's drawing everything.
Mm.
And, but it's going to be incredible, man. Get it out. But next step is shopping it to film festivals, trying to get the buzz up so we can sell it to somebody.
That's
But
awesome.
that's what took us to Mexico, and we were there for about a month.
Man.
And while we were there, we went to Cholula, went to Teotihuacan. It was fun, man. I love Mexico.
Yeah. No, it's incredible. You would love Tepoztlan. Tepoztlan might be one of your favorite places.
Really?
Yeah, man. It's a special place.
What is it close to?
Cuernavaca. It's about 2 hours south from Mexico City at
Okay.
the Mexico City airport. But I've heard it's where Timothy Leary did mushrooms for the first time. I've
For
heard.
real?
I'm not sure if that's correct, but that's that's the word on the street per se.
Hell yeah.
And it's a very trippy town. I mean, just the flowers are more vibrant. There's just it's a very very there's a lot of different spiritual healers that are there. It's got more energy than uh, any place I've been. Just highly energetic, and
Wow.
so yeah. And actually, my friend Barry still has Iboga Quest there. They do Ibogaine treatments for people, and I haven't been to the new location, but I mean the, you know, there's mountains all around you, and you're kind of in a valley, and they're super high, and they look copper with dark green and copper colors,
Damn.
like Lord of the Rings type stuff.
Wow. So
So
you can go down there just to do the Ibogaine outside of the addiction purposes, right? Like for
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Barry would, like, that yeah, Iboga Quest, um, they do the addiction and psycho-spiritual.
now, do they do it where is it like a group of people or
No, you well, uh, I don't know how it is now, but
Mhm.
generally, like, from back in the day, you're gonna be in, like, a room by yourself. You might have somebody that, checks on you and, things like that, but, I'm not
I think
sure.
it's the best way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's pretty awesome, but they also, my friend did, San Pedro there. There was a shaman that came in from, I think, Peru,
Mhm.
that did that, maybe Colombia, and, lots of different plant medicines.
Mhm.
Barry's like an old hippie, so he's probably in his 80s now. I think he's maybe 80, and, just a great guy. I mean, I owe him my sobriety from, opiates,
Man, that's really incredible.
but
That really
you would
is.
love them, and, I'm sure their place is awesome too.
Mhm.
So we've emailed back and forth, recently, and he's like, "You gotta come down." So when I schedule a trip, I'll let you know, and if you're free, we'd
Man,
love to have
please
you
do.
come.
Yeah, I would love to.
Be cool. So talk about, like, we talk about a lot about psychedelics. Uh, you know, what are the goals, in the next, few years with your career, I guess, managing Yellow Wolf and, any other goals you might have?
Man, my goals right now are I'm passionate about getting involved in this psychedelic renaissance and basically on the terms that me and you were discussing. You know what I mean? I don't know what the path is for me personally yet. I just want to help push this thing forward in a positive way, be an advocate for the plants specifically, like we said, stand up for the plants. Outside of that, as far as management or as far as music business, we're rolling out this double album for Wolf, and I'm just excited about that, man. I mean, the music's incredible. We got a lot of work cut out for us. Like we want to do last album we did worldwide street marketing campaign. I mean, all over the world, from Australia to Paris to New Zealand to Los Angeles. We're gonna do the same thing this time. Um, that's a whole thing. We're touring in between,
Mhm,
but my end goal, like as I grow, is to somehow get involved and help with this whole psychedelic thing.
mhm,
I don't even back to the working for free. I'm not worried about the money. You know what I mean? I'm
right.
worried about the money will come. You know what I mean? I'm worried about or not worried about. I'm focused on um, just helping it be a positive transition and helping educate people properly because there's a lot of unintentional misinformation
Mhm,
about psychedelics, their use, their pros and cons. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people who don't even know they're uninformed, you
yeah,
know? So I just want to help with that. And I'm sure it'll take on legs of its own and it'll figure itself out in the process. But I like that it's cool to talk about not I don't mean cool to talk about it, but it's okay to talk about it more now than it was before.
yeah,
You know what I mean? We probably wouldn't be having this conversation 5 years ago openly.
sure.
You know what I mean? But yeah, that's my goals, man, is to just circle back just to try to figure out how to make the world a better place while I float through. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, and hopefully roll out some good albums in between.
Yeah, you plan on, staying in Nashville as home base? You plan on kinda moving somewhere else or what?
I would love to eventually have houses, in different cities and stuff like that. But I got a place in Red Boiling Springs. You know where that is?
Mm-mm.
It's out by if you go to Carthage and then I think you go like north, not positive. But I got some land out there and I love it, man. Like I would be comfortable there. It's nice to have places in different cities or
Mhm.
whatever. But I love Tennessee.
Yeah,
I see myself probably staying there forever and hopefully having places, in different places.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the same. I like Nashville. Uh, I gotta travel though. I
Absolutely.
get a little I get a lot stir crazy if I'm in one place too long.
Right.
And so I'm not a big fan of the summer, hot summer. So like if I can go to a little cooler place in the
Mhm.
summer, cooler as in 80 degrees rather than
Oh, hell
95
yeah.
and humid.
Yeah.
Uh, but and then the winter, I'd want to go somewhere else too. But I like Nashville April through probably March through end of May,
Mhm.
September, October, midway through November, and then couple different places. Puerto Rico, my girlfriend, she lives in Puerto Rico. We met there, so I wouldn't mind having a little place there. Maybe Costa
I bet
Rica.
that's nice. Yeah.
Have you been to Costa Rica?
I haven't.
Man, you got to check out uh, the Guanacaste province. It's one of the what is it called? A blue zone? Is that the zones that people live to be like 90 plus?
Is that what
I
it
think
is?
it's called a blue zone. Uh,
Damn.
but yeah, it's one of those zones where the
Probably because they're happy and it's nice and
happy, good water, exercise, sunlight,
right.
you know, good diet. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's the they have a very specific diet.
Right.
Um, now we have so many chemicals and in a lot of the things that we do,
Mm-hmm.
in the food and the water and the
And that's something crazy I was talking about the other day. Like I've always drank a lot of soda and I wished it recently I've stopped on purpose. Like on tour, we get so much, they give us all this rider stuff and I just drink water, water, water to try to, stay healthy. But I've always wondered why, like growing up, it wasn't something that I almost feel like I should have waited to be older to drink soda and eat certain things that were processed or, you know what I mean? Like
dude, it's so bad for you.
so bad.
I mean, growing up too, man, I would drink sodas as well. I mean, as a kid, I loved Dr. Pepper when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I would just chug. I'd be outside after a workout or something, just chug a Coke, chug a
Like
Dr.
it's
Pepper.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Even the sweet tea, man. I love sweet
Oh my
tea.
goodness.
I mean, I
Yeah.
remember going to Hooters on Harding Place back in the day. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I know you know that Harding
Harding
Place
Place
Hooters. That's
Hooters. I
where
know exactly what you're
you
talking
know.
about. Yeah.
So I would go there and I would hang out. I was like 18, 19 years old. That's where my friends and I would meet for lunch,
Mm-hmm.
and I would just chug the sweet tea. With the ice, a big 32 ounce. I had like 3 or 4 of them. I'm drinking a
Mm-hmm.
half gallon of sweet tea just at one sitting, and not knowing how bad it was for me.
Oh my God.
You
Man,
know,
I can remember hearing the sugar pouring when my grandma was making the sweet tea. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
and just not know, like you're saying, not knowing, man, how horrible that is for you.
yeah. They, they don't. Well, at least when we were growing up, like nobody taught us
Right.
those things.
Nah, and it wasn't as relevant, I guess. Like people didn't really talk about that as much.
No, I mean, well, the health aspect. You look at right now, life expectancy in the United States, I think is 77 years old. It's actually down due to the COVID era.
Mm-hmm.
And with all the advances in medicine,
Mm-hmm.
you know, nothing, no advancement in medicine makes up for like the good diet and being active.
You know what they say is like most of which I can't remember the saying, but when people are working out, they say like most of it happens in the kitchen, right?
Yeah. Oh
Like
yeah.
most of getting fit happens in the kitchen.
Well, yeah. I mean, and the if you want to live a long time,
Mm-hmm.
you need to be on a good diet.
Right.
It really is. That's like one of the main keys. Drink a lot of
Mm-hmm.
water. Don't drink the sodas. But and there's so much debate on what diet is the perfect diet. I don't know.
Right.
I mean, there's so many good studies on multiple ends.
Right.
So, but pretty much what is a good diet and what is a bad diet. Stay
Right.
away from the processed foods. Stay away from the cokes. Stay away from all the breads and the
Right.
all that type of stuff.
Eat as raw as possible.
Yes, I mean as
Drink
clean
water.
as possible, organic.
Mm-hmm.
You know those type of things, and that makes a bigger difference in just about any scientific breakthrough, probably with the exception of antibiotics.
Right.
I mean, antibiotics were a big deal. So you add antibiotics in there, to save you from a bad infection, uh, and then add a great diet with exercise, activity.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to live 90 to 100 years old.
Dude, I was reading a book. I'm currently reading a book. I was reading a chapter in a book called The Path to Light last week. And it was talking about diet. And I'm not going to try to quote it exactly because I don't know. But the gist of it was drinking like raw vegetable juice and things like that can actually, in some form or fashion, push these things out of your
Oh
system.
yeah.
Like when you're eating naturally and not processed, right? It can like essentially chase that stuff out and heal you.
Yeah. So our hospital, that's kind of what we're known for. That's why I don't want to get into debates on diet just because
Mhm.
there's so many out there. I don't want to
Right.
like talk bad about any of them because I don't know about most of
Right.
them.
And
I
different
yeah,
ones might have different purposes.
exactly. And but we go through 3 to 400,000 pounds of organic fruits and vegetables a year.
Wow. 3
Our
to 400.
hospital's all organic. Our cancer patients get 13 fresh pressed organic juices a day. They're doing 15 to 20 pounds of raw, fresh, organic fruits
Damn.
and vegetables a day. And, yes, and it energizes. You could take a cancer patient, that has low energy due to the cancer. You fill them up with that much juice, and it's like, "Rah,"
It
like
starts
revs
working.
them up. You see it sometimes, not every time. Sometimes they're
Right.
too far gone, but man, it absolutely matters.
Right.
And you think about what hospitals give people. What were they giving you, Rob? Ensure.
Dude, let me tell you, that's crazy you said that. That just, man, at one point, I was reading all this stuff about sugar. And I mean, they brought up this plate. And I mean, I was taking pictures and showing it to people, saying, like, this is the diet you're giving these people right
Yes.
now? Let me show you what I just read about sugar and cancer. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Showing them and they're stuttering and don't know what the hell's going on. But yeah, it's crazy. And I went to the vending machine and I mean, it was just Mountain Dew and
Yeah,
Doritos. I'm like,
garbage.
wait, this is what you're feeding the people who are here with the people that you're trying to treat?
Yes.
I don't quite understand. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It seems like someone on quality control would be like, it's a bad look. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, but they're that's we built our hospital with that, the opposite idea.
Right. So that's what you that's dope.
So, I mean, it's you got to come down and check it out. But
I remember you telling me that. Yeah,
yeah,
that it's about a lot about the diet,
yeah, it's all about it's
getting the body back on track and healthy.
yes, good nutrition. Nutrition's not everything, but if we're to think that it's nothing and
Right.
and that people can just eat whatever they want and get better, like
Right.
that's silly to me.
Right.
I mean, does that like who would think that? Like you can just feed these people this garbage
No,
and
it's
you're
crazy.
helping them get better somehow? Like
Right.
I'm not saying that it's everything, but like you give somebody quality, high nutrition foods, with we press our juices.
Hmm.
So all of it's fresh pressed. Generally, we try to have the patients drink it within 1 hour of it being pressed. So all those
Oh
phytochemicals
wow.
and nutrients have not, died off. It's fresh. And
Wow.
you can go to a juice shop locally and it's still good if it's pressed a day old.
Hmm.
But I mean, you get it within the hour,
You're
you're
getting
getting
everything,
all of
all the
that. Yeah,
nutrients.
everything
Yeah.
that God intended to be in that,
Right.
nature intended to be in that. It's there.
Because even when you cook it or microwave, I mean, you're getting rid of a lot of that,
You
right?
are. Yeah. And even the centrifuge juices, they're not bad. It's still better than, something processed, but there's different levels of what's really good for you. The best juice for you is the juice that's been pressed, you know, immediately and drinking them immediately. If you can do that within the hour,
Hmm.
I mean, and that's where the best nutrition is. And if you have someone who's sick,
Hmm.
you want them to have the best nutrition.
Absolutely.
Like you got to ask, like, why do you think they don't want someone to have the best nutrition when they're going through something like that?
I think it's probably for the same reason. You know what I mean? Like they don't. It's like you don't want to heal the people. You know what I mean? If you're not troubleshooting and checking every aspect of what could potentially cause the problem, then there's a reason for that, right?
Yeah, I feel like it's we get so used to taking a pill for everything,
Hmm.
and we miss the bigger picture.
Right.
I mean, the bigger picture is if someone's on a good diet and not obese,
Hmm.
they're going to live longer. No
Right.
matter that's going to beat the best medications, you know, almost every time.
Right.
In
And
the
it's
long term.
right. And it's these other things are just like band-aids. They're
Yes,
not they're not real cures. They're just kind of masking the symptoms
you got it.
temporarily.
Got it.
You know?
Well, imagine if, and it's easy to say this if they would just prescribe meditation and exercise and
Hmm.
sunlight, because you
Right.
got to get people to do it,
Right.
which that's patient compliance is a huge issue.
Is it?
Oh yeah, but that's what I mean. If patients would comply to that,
So do you guys that's you guys push that or not push ain't the right word, but like encourage that at your spot?
oh yeah, well I mean, so yeah, I mean, and we're getting away from the full Gerson because it's very hard for patients to do. It's not their fault per se.
Right.
but those that do it, they have a better shot for sure. But that's
Meditation?
13, no, 13 fresh pressed juices a day, 5
I
coffee
got you.
enemas a day. Like it's an intense protocol. And so we still have the setup of all organic uh, fruits and vegetables, pressed juices.
Right,
We still have that as an option, but
right.
we have other options, you know, for their diet
In the
as well.
event they can't stick to that.
Exactly.
Right. Because
But
you also gotta be cautious with their they might not feel like being too healthy, right? In that mind state
oh yeah, patient
sometimes.
compliance is
Right.
a major thing when it comes to their treatments.
I can
Sometimes
imagine.
patients don't want, it's hard enough to get someone to exercise 3 days a week and not drink
Mhm,
soda, let alone
mhm.
drink 13 fresh pressed organic juices a day.
Right, right.
you know, but no, yeah, meditation. We have absolutely encourage that. We have classes twice a week called the Power of the Mind,
Sick.
and we have the patients go through a process where they share their experiences, and we teach them how their words matter.
Mm,
We show them what it means to be fully committed, and partially committed. We show them a lot of these different things, because the mind as well, just like we're talking about nutrition, it's not everything, but we know it's something.
right,
Same thing with the power of the mind. It's not everything, but it's something.
right.
Imagine if you were training a fighter for the UFC and you were like, "Oh, don't worry about visualizing. Oh, it doesn't matter if you think you can win or lose. It doesn't matter. None of that matters."
Right.
You'd be the worst coach ever, but you tell them to visualize, get your hand raised, you're a champion,
Mhm.
those type of things. And if someone's going into a battle with cancer, it's a lot like a fight,
Damn.
you know.
Yeah,
Better have good
absolutely.
nutrition. You better get their mind right.
Right.
You better get your mind right.
That's something I've heard about a study in the past. I don't know if it was a basketball team. I don't know. You might know because you were just talking about it. But the coach, they did some kind of study where one group didn't practice at all, one group just practiced and didn't visualize, then one practiced and visualized, I believe it was. And the one that practiced and visualized, was the best performing,
Sure.
you know, and there may have even been one that just visualized and it was actually better than the one that just practiced.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But showing to your point, the power of the mind, man, like, you can go down a rabbit hole as far as that goes anyway, but it's very important in anything you're doing. You know what I mean? Whether it's surviving, healing, or even if you're dying. You know what I mean? While dying, it's important to keep that positive mental attitude,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, thoughts are things.
Right. Right.
Whether you believe you can or can't, you're right.
Period.
Yeah, I mean and so usually those concepts for healing, uh, I think it's you know, especially for the end stage patients that are going the stage 4 patients,
Hmm.
metastatic cancer patients they're going through, you know, every little bit matters,
Right.
and it's so underestimated in medicine and conventional medicine that we see in the U.S. They don't even talk about these things.
Right.
Like your doctor, generally, the doctor is not going to talk to you about the importance of having a strong mind, and
No, not at
watch how
all.
you talk to yourself, and you know are you in a good headspace, and are you focused, and you know to do those trainings. But it's because we've chased the patent, which is why I was concerned with the plant medicine being exploited. We chase this patent, which is this perfect drug that makes billions of dollars
Hmm.
for the pharmaceutical companies or whoever gets the patent
Hmm.
approved, and we lose common sense. Common sense is diet, exercise, sunlight, love.
Hmm.
It's common sense, man.
Right.
That's not advanced science.
No, it's actually old science.
Yeah,
It's how they used to do it before all the things that we have in society today.
yeah. And then you have antibiotics now, so yeah, you get a bad bacterial infection, it'll save you.
Hmm.
You're gonna have extended life from that. Don't
Hmm.
abuse that either.
Right.
But none of this modern medicine is going to do better than those type of things. Your lifestyle. You have something called epigenetics, which are environmental factors that turn on the
Hmm.
genetics. I mean, these epigenetic factors, the environmental factors, they're a big deal.
Hmm.
And one of those things is how much stress you have, how much anger, how much happiness.
Hmm.
Those things turn on good or bad things.
Right.
And but mainstream medicine per se, conventional they don't. It's not part of the prescription.
Right. And by that you mean like Like for instance, stress releases is it cortisol?
Yes.
Like so, and cortisol can lead to um, problems, disease, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of what you're saying, like whether it's anger or
Oh,
stress,
yeah.
that's why it's so important to get to the silence, to figure out how to clear your mind,
Yes.
to get back to that, to be able to do everything in your power as a human being to dodge anger when possible. And that's its own task.
Yes, man. It's so hard coming from, a business world to, uh, a world where we're just kinda hanging out talking right now.
Right.
'Cause, I've got a couple 100 employees and, um, you know, you catch me in a work environment, I'm a lot different than if we're just hanging or talking or I'm with a
Right.
patient or those type of things. And I have to catch it because, like, my dad, growing up, great guy, but, temper,
Hmm.
you know? And, so I guess I have, those genetics, that to those temper genetics. And, but I'm aware of that anger too. So it's a constant balance.
Right.
It's interesting when you know something, kind of like overweight people know that they shouldn't be that being overweight isn't good for them,
Hmm.
but they keep eating.
Right.
So sometimes when I experience anger, I know that being angry isn't good for me, but I'm continuing it, and it is a choice.
Right. And it's almost addictive at a certain point. When
Yes.
you get that and you're kind of putting fuel on the fire.
Yeah. Have you ever looked at shadow work?
I've heard of it recently, but I don't know much about it.
Yeah. So I did a 6-month course called A Journey Within last year, and it talked about that. And so, yeah, you have the shadows, kind of like I'm gonna say the darker side per se,
Hmm.
and and then you have the golden shadow, which is the good part of it that raises above. And then generally you live above your shadow,
Hmm.
but your shadow will come in and mess things up. And a lot of the course is talking about how you can acknowledge your shadow, and at least be okay with these bad, I say bad parts about you. It's not
Hmm.
necessarily the courses say it's not good or bad. It's
Hmm.
like, but it's to acknowledge those parts about you, and you can also use it in a positive way.
Hmm.
So you can channel those things. Like let's say where you do need where your normal self says, "Hey, let's not stick up for yourself." Your shadow can kick in, and you can really stick up for yourself.
Absolutely. And use that as a tool.
Yes. And so that's one of the things the course does is it teaches you how to use it as a tool. So now I'm just really aware of it too. Some of my anger, but I'm experiencing anger. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, like let's
There's a shadow.
yeah, that's my shadow.
Mhm.
That's my shadow. But yeah, it does. We do have to be careful with those things because especially if they consume your life,
Mhm.
which it does. A lot of people are so unaware. They're like complete
Completely unaware.
of those type of things.
I'll tell you something. I like to say, like in business, like fast paced business, right?
Mhm.
Um, when you've got these ups and downs, this guy might be really excited and you want to congratulate him, and this guy over here, you got to kick his ass because he just screwed something up. It's like I like to say it's being professionally bipolar.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Especially like touring on the road. You've got to be happy and smiling this minute, help the old lady across the street, and then choke out the promoter next because the side bills are too small. You know what I
Yes.
mean? It's like there's a lot going on there. And then there's something I wanted to touch on that you said something about a second ago with the shadow stuff. I have this idea of like the only thing I can think of to call it is a psychic ceiling, right? And the way that it revealed itself to me was I used to live in a duplex way back, and I had a pit bull, and I didn't have a backyard or anything for him to go in. So when I wasn't home, I had this like long lead, and I would put the lead on the back door. He could run through the whole downstairs, he just couldn't get upstairs. And right next to him was the refrigerator, which had everything he ever wanted in life, right? All the food he ever wanted is everything he could dream of that he wanted right there in life. But his brain was too small to understand that he just had to walk over here, wiggle it open, and he could have everything he ever wanted. And I think that's a psychic ceiling. You know what I mean? It's like he doesn't understand that there's something above that he doesn't know that he doesn't know, right?
Mhm.
So I always say, like in my own life, there's a refrigerator next to the door in my life that I'm not aware of. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think that goes back to, that type of thing, like dialing into your your mind and the power of your mind and understanding. Like I'd like to challenge myself and try to figure out how do I get to the point where I can understand the things that I don't know I don't yet know. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a tough one.
How do you yeah, the unknown unknowns.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, those will get you.
Yeah, for sure. If you can get to them, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's good that you're you're searching because I mean, a lot of people don't search. I'm the same way, man. I'm
Mhm.
I'm definitely, searching, and I think the more you realize the longer you go, the more you realize you don't know,
Right. Right.
you know? I mean, that's how it is with a lot of the cancer with me right now. I feel like I know less now than I did, 8 years ago.
Before you know what you know now.
Oh god, yeah.
That's crazy.
It is, man.
Because you've now realized how broad this thing actually is, right?
It's so complicated. It's so
Yeah.
complicated, and there's so many factors.
Mhm.
I'm not like one that's a big conspiracy person on, "Oh, they have a cure," like,
Mhm.
yes, I get messages all the time like, "Oh, do you think that there's a cure for cancer?" I'm like, "Well, cancer is not a disease.
Mm. It's your own
It's
cells,
a
right?
bunch of different diseases." So,
Okay.
it's not just a disease. So, breast cancer is different than pancreatic cancer is different
Mhm.
than liver cancer is different than glioblastoma per se. So, and then, you know, two people with the same cancer can get the same treatment. One can respond, the other won't. Why is
Oh,
that?
wow.
And so,
That's
and then
crazy.
it just multiplies because, and then could it be one of the things that could do with is the mind?
Mhm.
Could it be, uh, the, the attitude going in? If they're super negative,
Mhm.
you know, uh, could that hold them back?
Right.
Um, could it be, uh, well, we know now we can actually tell from tumors if they can respond to immunotherapy or not. So, like the landscape of the tumor can tell you if they have the buttons that can be
Mhm.
turned on, or if the buttons are turned on to where it can unlock the immune system and be
And fight it off.
seen by the immune system because these cancers evade being seen by the immune system. So, really
Wow.
simplifying cancer in one way to simplify it. This isn't everything, but it's can you get the immune system to see it or not?
That's pretty incredible. Like just to think about that.
Yeah. Because the immune system sees it, it's going to attack it.
So it basically bypasses the immune system.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's crazy, man. I have an aunt who I didn't realize this till we were going through the thing with my mom, but I mean, I knew she had cancer. I knew a little bit about it. She lives in Delaware. I didn't understand the magnitude, but she had stage 4 brain cancer and they gave her 3 months to live.
Mm,
And she looked at my uncle and said, I'm furious. And, I mean, I don't think he said, like, what, why? He knew why, but he didn't know how to respond. And was like, she said, I'm going to fight this. And man, when I tell you it's been 2 years,
yeah.
and if you see her in person, you would never know anything was wrong with her. She looks incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I don't know their daily routine, but I'm sure there's a long battle to fight along the way. But she's here with us and no sign of anything otherwise happening. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like, but like you said, my mom, we were in there, singing. I told my dad, bring the guitar. Like, we're gonna have a good vibe. Man, he came in there, she was singing with us and voice sounded like Johnny Cash. She pointed it out. She was like, I sound like Johnny Cash. And like, we were in there like really, I mean, like people are looking down the hall, like, what the hell? Who's so happy down there? We're singing and just trying to keep her spirits up, man. And
Yes.
but like you said, one person reacts this way, the other right. And she was fighting. But it's pretty crazy. And I was fighting like kind of like a much higher stakes level of the tour thing, like taking that same I got to get this shit done quick and get it done immediate, regardless of what this guy says he can or can't do, and applied that to this, not understanding the magnitude of pancreatic cancer because in my mind I didn't have the time to research. I'm
Sure.
just trying to fight these people and make sure they're all doing their job.
Yeah.
And then I, figured out it's one of the main ones that is terminal, right?
Sure.
So,
Yeah. Absolutely.
but yeah, it's pretty crazy, man.
Yeah. She was at the very end too. It had caught, they caught it really late.
They caught it really late, and it was really unfortunate,
Yeah.
because I know it's gonna take you regardless, but who knows? Maybe you could have bought some time, that type of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Yeah, that's cancer though. You don't now. I'll tell you, like the future's somewhat bright,
right.
and it's bright because we'll be able to, well, we can right now to not the perfect level of accuracy, but a high level of accuracy. We can take patients' blood and see if they have circulating tumor DNA in their blood.
Oh wow, like
It's
long
called
and
a
then
liquid biopsy.
okay.
So you know how the tissue biopsy, they take the tissue to see if they have cancer.
Mhm.
It should be as simple as a blood test here, in the next 7 to 10 years. I mean, it already is in a way, like for certain cancers, you can tell. There's a
Mhm.
company called Grail that's owned by Illumina. um, they've got an FDA approved test. There's a couple other FDA approved blood tests. And really, people should be getting that test once a year just to see,
Mhm.
if they have the circulating tumor DNA, if they have, if
And
there's a,
that's something going on right
oh yeah,
now?
you can get it. It's I think the test's only like $1,000 too. So I
Hell
think
yeah.
Grail brought it in pretty cheap. When I say $1,000, and it's a lot for, it's not cheap for everybody, but
But I
it's
mean
pretty
for
cheap
cancer,
compared to
yeah.
a lot of these other tests. Some of
Right.
the other companies are charging a lot more than them.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, liquid biopsy, because early detection is key. You're talking about with your mom, if they would have caught it early, you could even
Mhm.
do surgery.
Right.
And that can be a curable type thing
Right.
sometimes. And but if there was a blood test that somebody took once a year, yeah, that's coming.
Mm.
That's coming.
And then they could figure it out early enough to
Oh yeah, you can tell
battle
by
it.
the DNA what the cancer is. So you can tell if it's in the liver, in lung.
That's
Yeah,
really incredible.
liquid biopsy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had been using it for many years in Mexico uh, before it was FDA approved. We were using it for specific cancers and monitoring. Like if someone had lung cancer,
Mhm.
we would understand the markers and be able to uh, sequence that DNA and tell how their cancer was doing. Um,
Jeez, man.
so
That's a real advancement.
yeah, and now it's kind of mainstream. A lot of people don't know about
Right.
it, but yeah, the future's pretty bright with cancer. I mean,
Right.
we are gaining a lot of traction right now, and the biggest thing I think in our way is really the pharmaceutical industry.
Mhm.
Uh, it it holds back really innovation in many ways, um, and it slows it down. Right now, it it's just slow because everybody wants to have their patent get through.
And am I right to say that it's also way more profitable to just kind of put the band-aid on, right? And let someone ride out the pills or whatever?
I think that is that's correct somewhat.
Mhm.
Uh, but I think that the science is coming on so fast right now. So you'll have different things. You have, for instance, something called CAR T cells,
Mhm.
which is a chimeric antigen receptor cell, T cell, where they take the patient's blood, they program the T cells to attack the cancer. It's what's called an autologous, meaning from the patient's own body treatment. You have that's really good for blood cancers. You have something called tumor infiltrating lymphocytes or
Mhm.
TILs.
Mhm.
That's probably TILs are probably 5 to 10 years away from being approved in America. We're going to be doing them next year at CHIPSA. But that
Mm.
where we take a piece of the tumor and then we basically, train the lymphocytes to infiltrate, and we expand those, and we expand the tumor infiltrating lymphocytes, and then we re-inject those.
That's
Things
crazy,
like
man.
that. But combination therapy within there, like for instance, the CAR T cells right now, it's about a $500,000 that treatment. Our
Mhm.
goal next year is to do the CAR Ts for under $50,000 for the patient. And so, right now insurance doesn't cover it for a lot of people in America. So it's like, how do we bring down the price to where, I mean, it's still a lot of money for people,
Mhm.
but it's a lot more doable than a 500,000 bucks.
I mean, a lot more doable,
So
and if it's life or death, it's like you're gonna figure it out.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
That's yeah, super affordable for that situation.
Yeah. So you got those two coming up, and there's a bunch more in
Mhm.
the immunotherapy kind of realm
Right.
that have a lot of potential.
Mhm.
So, but I still don't know how you cure all cancer
Right.
because it's so many different things. It's like it's not just one disease. And
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
yeah,
I didn't, like I said, I didn't realize the pancreatic thing was so. I mean, I was really going for it, like, arguing with these people, trying to make them figure it out. You know what I
yeah, of
mean?
course.
And then I was like, wait, I think it's what Steve Jobs died from, right?
Mhm.
That's one of the things that helped me realize, okay, this is bigger than money. You know what I mean? That's, that's one of the things that helped me realize that is, I mean, that dude had all the money in the world. You know what I
Of
mean? It
course,
wasn't a money problem with him.
it's not. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's 15-month survival is around 15%, I believe, with pancreatic.
Right.
And you know, when I talk to you, it's interesting because we talked during that time,
Hmm.
and I've talked to a lot of patients, and there's always I don't ever want to not give hope,
Right.
and it's it's just try to do the right thing in the conversation.
Got to be a difficult balance.
It's difficult,
Yeah, because you know what, based on what this thing shows, probably the case.
man. Hmm.
You know, but one of the things she said to me that I thought was like the hardest shit anybody could ever say, man. Like I'll hold this on forever. Is when the doctor came in and told us you have 17 months. It was just me and her. I almost passed out and hit my head. Like it was surreal. It didn't seem real. You know what I mean? And she just grabbed my hand, held it a little tighter, and she said, "Maybe this is just our cards," and kept it moving. And I was like, I don't know anybody who could have been tougher in that moment.
Hmm.
I mean, that's all she said was, "Maybe this is our cards." And I was just like, "Damn, I'm gonna carry that with me forever." You know,
Yeah,
those words, whatever the hell it is we're dealing with, maybe that's our cards. I thought that was it. Just stuck with me. It's like, damn, she was little tiny lady, but man, tough as hell.
yeah,
You know, thought
absolutely.
that was dope to carry on.
Yeah, something to remember, and you know, we learn a lot, man, when people are dying and
Hmm.
when loved ones are going through that, and uh, the balance too is letting the person die with dignity as well,
Right,
because a lot of times they'll hold on for their loved ones.
right,
So the person that's dying is fighting so hard just because they don't want to let their loved one down.
mm,
And so that's another thing I'll tell people sometimes, like, hey, there's sometimes you got to let them die with dignity.
mm,
Not that I know when that time is,
right,
but just if that timing comes and you feel it,
hmm,
consider it. That
right.
makes sense.
No, it makes complete sense. And it's like to add to that, when she was at home on hospice, it was me, her brother, her sister, and my fiance and my dad. And at one point, they told me go take a nap. Me and my uncle had been up for like 3 days, just with her every minute. And then told me to take a nap. I said I'm not gonna do it. I already know what's gonna happen. You know what I mean? So I stayed up or whatever, and held her hand. I was holding her hand when she passed, and she waited till my dad. He was like, I think he might have been, he was dealing with a lot, so he was like pacing back and forth in the other room and was having a hard time settling down. Rightfully so. We all were in our own way, and he came in there and I asked him. I said, "Man, he's a musician." Like I said, "Please play her a song. She can hear it."
Mm-hmm.
Sang her that song, and man, he cried his eyes out, man. And she let go.
Mm,
That's when it happened, right after he finished that song. And I think, like you were saying, I think she was waiting on everyone to be,
okay. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah, man,
crazy.
it's beautiful. It's, there's certain things that are hard to understand,
Right,
like and when you're going through those, there's nothing more real than that.
right.
That's so
No.
real.
Hmm.
Mom, your mom's there and family, your dad.
Hmm.
And you realize what's the most important thing.
Right,
Making them as comfortable as possible, making sure they know how loved, they are. And
right,
you know, it's very real. And I think we are losing in some ways we're losing our way as humans because you know, we have our phones, we have these other things that don't really they're not important.
right.
Nothing's more important than you know, you know, being with our loved ones. If you could pay, if you could get every amount of money that you had for, another month or even a day with your mom, would you do it?
100%. I'd give everything I ever make. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For
exactly.
sure.
And that's something bigger than money.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
well, brother, it's been great talking to you. I don't even
Yeah,
know how
man.
long we've been going here. It's over 2 hours.
Oh shit. Great
That's
conversation, brother.
great,
I
man.
appreciate you having me, Ed.
Yeah,
It was
thanks
a
for coming on, and then maybe we can do it again sometime.
yeah, absolutely, man.
All
Hell yeah,
right.
a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you, brother.